Let me know what you're looking for in a story. Helps with ideas in the future. I really hope you guys enjoy. Please take the time to like and subscribe. It helps support the channel. I had a wife. I had a daughter. I had a life I loved. Then Claire reset the world and erased them all. Main story. I realized something was wrong with Claire Whitmore on the day she died in my arms. At that time, rain was pouring down heavily. Her white dress was stained red with blood, and her fingers were tightly clutching my sleeve. She was clearly about to die, but there was not much fear in her eyes. Instead, she looked at me and smiled. "Ethan, don't be afraid. Next time I will get it right." At that moment, I thought she was just confused before death. I lowered my head and wanted to ask her what she meant, but before I could speak, her hand slowly fell from my arm. The ambulance sirens were getting closer and closer, but I knew it was already too late. Claire died in my arms. But when I opened my eyes again, I was standing under the old clock tower at Harrington University. The autumn wind blew past my face, and the maple leaves on the ground were rolled up by the wind. Everything in front of me was so familiar that my blood seemed to freeze. Because this was the place where I first met Claire. And Claire Whitmore was standing not far away from me. She was alive. She was wearing a cream-colored blouse. Her long black hair was pinned behind her ear, and her face was pale and beautiful. When she saw me looking at her, she smiled softly. "Ethan, you came." Hearing her voice, my whole body stiffened. I stared at her without moving. At this time, the bell of the clock tower rang exactly 9 times. Birds flew from the top of the tower, and one bird flew low over my head. In my memory, the first time I met Claire, I had ducked because of that bird, and Claire had laughed at me. But this time, I did not duck. The bird flew past my head, and I just stood there coldly. Claire's smile froze for a second. Although it was only for a second, I still saw it. She noticed. She noticed that I had not reacted the same way as before. From that moment on, I knew that something was wrong with her. But I did not know yet just how terrifying Claire Whitmore really was. The first time I met Claire, I was late for an interview. It was not some important job interview. It was only an interview for Harrington University's business association. But everyone knew that the people in that association were either rich heirs, future CEOs, or children from political families. I was different from them. My father ran a repair shop, and my mother gave piano lessons at home. I was able to enter Harrington only because of scholarships and part-time jobs. So I knew very clearly that I did not belong in their world. That morning, I was supposed to meet my roommate Daniel Cross under the clock tower. Daniel was my best friend at Harrington. His family was rich, but he never treated me like I was poor. Because of that, I trusted him. But Daniel was late that day. I stood under the clock tower alone, checking the time again and again. Just then, a girl's voice sounded behind me. "You're going to drop that." I turned around and saw Claire holding 2 cups of coffee. Before I could ask her what she meant, the strap of my bag suddenly snapped. My folder fell out and papers scattered all over the ground. One page even fell directly into a puddle. Claire walked over calmly, bent down, and helped me pick up the papers. "You should fix that bag," she said. I looked at her in surprise. "How did you know it would break?" Claire smiled. "I didn't know. You just look like the kind of person whose bag breaks at the worst possible time." Her answer was strange, but I laughed. Then she handed me one of the coffees. "Here, black coffee, right?" I froze. "How did you know I drink black coffee?" Claire still smiled. "You look like the type." At that time, I did not think too much about it. Later, I realized that Claire always used this kind of answer. "You look like the type. You look like the type who studies alone. You look like the type who pretends not to be tired." You look like the type who does not ask for help. At first, I thought she understood me. I even thought maybe this was fate. But now that I think about it, she did not understand me. She had only seen the same scene too many times. In the beginning, Claire was perfect. She remembered my coffee order. She knew my class schedule. She knew I did not like onions. She even knew the name of the dog I had when I was a child. I was sure I had never told her some of these things. But every time I asked, she would only smile gently. "Ethan, you told me before." "I don't remember telling you." "You were probably tired, so you forgot." Her explanation always sounded reasonable. That was the scariest part about Claire. She could make the impossible sound normal. By winter, almost everyone at school thought Claire and I were dating. Daniel teased me every day. "Ethan, just admit it. You and Claire are basically together already." I said we are not dating. Daniel laughed, "Sure, and I am secretly poor." I threw a pillow at him. At that time, I really did not hate Claire. How could I hate her? She always appeared when I needed help. When I forgot to eat, she brought food. When I almost missed a deadline, she reminded me. When someone from the business association tried to embarrass me at a party, she helped me turn the situation around with just a few words. She was gentle, smart, beautiful, and considerate. Everyone said I was lucky. Even I once thought I was lucky. Until that Thursday. Every Thursday, Daniel and I would eat lunch at the noodle shop behind the library. Daniel always ordered spicy beef noodles and complained that it was not spicy enough. I always ordered chicken noodles, and every time I burned my tongue because I did not wait for it to cool down. That day Claire came with us. She sat across from me, stirring her tea even though she had not added sugar. Daniel was telling some joke when Claire suddenly reached out and moved my bowl to the side. The next second, a waiter bumped into the chair behind me. A glass of ice water fell over and spilled exactly where my bowl had just been. Daniel laughed and said, "Claire, your reaction is amazing." Claire smiled. But I could not smile. Because she did not react after the waiter bumped into the chair. She moved the bowl before it happened. I looked at her and asked, "How did you know?" Claire's hand paused slightly. Then she said, "I saw him coming." I frowned. "You weren't looking at him." The smile on Claire's face froze for a moment. Daniel looked at us and said, "Why does this lunch suddenly feel so serious?" Claire smiled again. "Ethan gets nervous when someone saves his noodles." Daniel laughed. I also laughed with him. But in my heart, I felt a chill for the first time. After that, I started paying attention to Claire. At first, I only thought she was very observant. But more and more things happened. On March 3rd, Claire told me not to take Ashford Street. 15 minutes later, there was a car accident there. On March 9th, Claire told Daniel not to go to fencing practice. Daniel did not listen, and he sprained his wrist that afternoon. On March 14th, Claire said the finance exam would focus on risk models. The professor had clearly said those chapters were optional, but the whole exam was about risk models. On March 21st, Claire told me not to wear a blue tie. I wore it anyway, and before the interview, ink spilled on it. 1 or 2 times could be coincidence. But too many coincidences are no longer coincidences. Then Lily Morgan appeared. Lily was late the first time I met her. She rushed into Professor Ellison's seminar with a pile of books in her arms. Because the books were stacked too high, she could barely see the road. As expected, she tripped. The books flew everywhere. Everyone in the classroom looked at her. Lily sat on the floor for a moment, then raised one hand and said, "I would like to explain. That was performance art." The whole class laughed. I also smiled and bent down to help her pick up the books. She looked at me and whispered, "If you pretend you didn't see that, I will pretend I am not dying inside." I said, "Deal." She stretched out her hand, "Lily." I shook her hand, "Ethan." Her palm was warm. Normal. That was my first impression of Lily. She was not like Claire. She did not know what I was going to say next. She did not predict my actions. She did not look at me with that strange expression, as if she had waited for me for a very long time. Lily was messy, direct, and a little clumsy. She laughed at strange times, forgot names, and always changed plans at the last minute. But with her I felt relaxed. I had not realized before that being with Claire made me feel like I was walking on a road that had already been arranged. Claire noticed Lily very quickly. That day, Lily returned a book to me outside the library. She handed the book to me and smiled. I underlined 3 sentences and argued with 2 paragraphs in the margins. "You're welcome." I looked at her. "You wrote in my book." In pencil, "I am chaotic, not evil." I laughed. At that moment, I suddenly felt the air around me become cold. I turned my head and saw Claire standing on the library steps. She was wearing a pale blue coat, and her expression was very calm. "Too calm." "Ethan," she called. Lily looked at her. "Hi, I'm Lily." Claire walked down the steps slowly. "I know." Lily blinked, "You know." Claire looked at me and said, "You're in Professor Ellison's seminar." Lily smiled, "That's right, and you are." Claire's eyes darkened for a second. Maybe this was the first time someone at Harrington did not know who she was. Claire said lightly, "Claire." Lily nodded, "Nice to meet you." Claire did not answer her. She looked at the book in my hand. "You don't usually lend people your books." It was just 1 sentence, but I could hear the meaning inside. It was like she was saying that my things, my habits, and even my choices should all belong to her. I said, "It's just a book." Claire smiled, "Of course." Lily seemed to feel that the atmosphere was not right. She took a step back and said, "I should go." "Ethan, see you in class." I nodded, "See you." After Lily left, Claire kept staring at her back. Then she looked at me and asked, "How close are you two?" I frowned with Lily. Claire smiled, "Who else?" "We are just classmates." "Stay away from her." I looked at Claire in disbelief. "What?" Her voice was very soft, but her words were firm. "She is not good for you." I laughed because I thought she was joking. But Claire did not laugh. I said, "You just met her." Claire's fingers tightened around her bag strap. "Ethan, please, just trust me." "Why?" Her eyes trembled. "Because every time you don't, something terrible happens." I froze. "What does that mean?" Claire seemed to realize that she had said too much. She quickly lowered her eyes and said, "I mean people can disappoint you." But I knew that was not what she meant. That night, I decided to test her. Claire texted me at 9:17 p.m. "Ethan, are you back at the dorm?" Usually, I would reply immediately. This time, I put the phone down and did not answer. 10 minutes passed. 20 minutes passed. 30 minutes passed. The phone kept buzzing. "Ethan, are you upset with me? Please answer me." I still did not reply. At 10:04, Daniel pushed open the door of our dorm room with a bag of chips in his hand. "Why is Claire standing downstairs?" My heart tightened. "What?" Daniel walked to the window and looked down. "She is standing outside in the rain, very dramatic. Like some ghost from an old romance movie." I walked to the window. Under the street lamp, Claire stood alone in the rain holding her phone. Her hair and clothes were wet, but she did not leave. When she saw me standing by the window, she smiled. My phone buzzed again. Don't make me worry like this. I closed the curtain. Daniel looked at me and said, Ethan, this is actually kind of creepy. I did not answer, because I was beginning to feel that Claire was not just creepy. She was dangerous. The next morning, I opened my eyes before my alarm rang. For a moment, I thought everything was normal. Then I looked at my phone. The date was wrong. It was Thursday again. The same Thursday. The day we ate noodles. The day Claire moved my bowl. My body went cold from head to toe. I sat up suddenly. Daniel was startled awake and groaned, "If the building is not on fire, I am going to fight you." I grabbed my phone and checked the messages. All of Claire's texts from last night were gone. The rain was gone. The whole night was gone. Then my phone buzzed. Claire sent a message. "Good morning. Don't forget lunch with Daniel today." Then another message came. "I'll come too." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I slowly typed one word. "No." 3 dots immediately appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. "What do you mean?" I typed, "I am eating with Daniel alone." This time, Claire did not reply for nearly a minute. Then her message came. "Ethan, don't be difficult. Not are you angry. Not did I do something wrong." She said, "Don't be difficult." It was like I was a child who refused to follow the script. I threw my phone on the bed. Daniel sat up and looked at me. "What did your phone do?" I turned to him and said, "Daniel, do you think today has happened before?" Daniel blinked, emotionally many times. I said coldly, "I am serious." He looked at my expression and slowly stopped joking. What happened? I wanted to tell him everything. Claire dying in my arms. The clock tower. The birds. The repeated Thursday. But I knew no normal person would believe such a thing. So I only said, "I think Claire is dangerous." Daniel was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "Okay, tell me why." So I told him some things. Not all of it, but enough. After listening, Daniel leaned against the wall and said, "Either you are too stressed and losing your mind, or Claire Whitmore is some kind of time witch." I looked at him. "Thank you, very helpful." He raised both hands. "I'm trying to process this." Then he said, "We need to test it." At lunch, Daniel and I deliberately changed tables. Originally, we always sat near the middle. This time, we sat by the window. Claire arrived 7 minutes later. When she saw us sitting there, she stopped for a moment. Then she smiled and walked over. "You changed tables." I said casually. Daniel wanted to sit by the window. Daniel coughed. "Yes, I love windows." Claire sat beside me. Too close. The waiter brought our noodles over. I watched him carefully. In the original version, he would bump into the chair behind me and spill the water. But now there was no chair behind me. The waiter walked past safely. I almost breathed out in relief. But at that moment, there was a crash in the kitchen. Someone shouted. The waiter turned his head. His foot caught Daniel's backpack and the tray tilted. The glass of ice water slid toward me. Before I could move, Claire grabbed my wrist and pulled me away. The water splashed onto the empty chair beside me. The table fell silent. Daniel's face turned pale. I looked at Claire. Her breathing was a little unsteady, but she still smiled. "You're welcome." This time I understood. Changing the process did not stop the result. It only forced the accident to happen in another way. After lunch, Daniel pulled me behind the library. "Ethan, this is not normal." I said, I know. Daniel looked around and lowered his voice. Stay away from her. I smiled bitterly. I ignored one text and the whole day restarted. Then don't let her know you know. Smile at her, act normal, and find out what she wants. I looked at him. Since when are you so calm? Daniel said, my family is rich. We are born knowing how to pretend. I almost laughed. But before I could say anything, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire. A photo. In the photo, Daniel was standing outside the library. The photo was taken from far away. Under the photo, Claire wrote one sentence. Be careful who you trust. My fingers tightened. Another message came. Some people get hurt because they stand too close to you. My whole body turned cold. I immediately called Daniel's phone. But Daniel was standing right in front of me. At that moment, he also saw the message. His face changed. Before either of us could speak, there was a sudden screeching sound from the west gate. Then came screams. Daniel and I ran over together. A bicycle lay twisted on the ground. A car had stopped half on the curb. A student was lying in a pool of blood. It was Daniel. But Daniel was also standing beside me. For a second, my mind went blank. The Daniel beside me disappeared like smoke. The real Daniel was lying on the ground, blood running from his forehead. I rushed over. Daniel, Daniel. He groaned faintly. The crowd was panicking. Behind me, Claire's voice sounded softly. I warned you. I turned my head slowly. Claire stood under the gate arch. Her eyes were red as if she was about to cry. But there was no shock in her eyes. Only sadness. A kind of sadness that seemed to have been repeated many times. I walked up to her and grabbed her wrist. What did you do? Claire looked hurt. Ethan, I didn't do anything. What did you do? She looked at Daniel on the ground and said softly, he won't die. My heart stopped. How do you know? Claire's face changed. She realized she had slipped. Then she whispered, because he didn't last time. Last time. Those two words made my scalp numb. Before I could ask more, Daniel's phone on the ground suddenly rang. The screen lit up. The caller was Lily Morgan. Claire also saw the name. Her expression instantly became colder. Oh, she said softly. So it's starting again. Daniel survived. The doctor said he was lucky. He had a concussion, several stitches, and a fractured wrist, but his life was not in danger. I sat beside his hospital bed the whole night. When Daniel woke up, his first sentence was, if anyone asks, I fought a bear. I almost cried. He looked at me and frowned. You look worse than me. I said, you were hit by a car. He said, and yet you look like the one who died. I laughed, but my throat hurt. Then Daniel's expression slowly became serious. It was Claire, right? I did not answer. He closed his eyes. I remember something. My heart tightened. What? He frowned. I remember telling you not to go to the winter gala. I froze. The winter gala hasn't happened yet. I know, but I remember it. You wore a black suit. Claire wore red. Lily was there too. His voice became lower. And someone fell from the balcony. My hands tightened. Who? Daniel opened his eyes and looked at me. You. I left the hospital in a daze. Outside, the road was wet from rain. The streetlights reflected on the ground, and everything looked unreal. My phone buzzed. Claire. Daniel is alive. You should be grateful. Then another message. I know you are scared. Then another. But you always get scared before you understand. Then another. Come to the clock tower tomorrow morning. I will explain everything. I stared at the screen. Then one last message appeared. Don't bring Lily. I had not told her I wanted to contact Lily. I had not even decided yet. But she already knew. This time, anger finally overwhelmed my fear. I typed back, "How many times have you done this?" Claire replied almost immediately. "Enough to know you belong with me." I turned off my phone. I should have stayed away from Lily. That would have been safer. But Claire had already involved her. So I went to Lily's apartment. When Lily opened the door, she was holding a cup of tea. Seeing my expression, her smile disappeared. "Ethan, what happened?" I walked inside and said, "I need to tell you something insane." Lily listened quietly. I told her about the repeated day, Claire's predictions, Daniel's accident, and the messages. After I finished, Lily was silent for a long time. Then she put the cup down. "I believe you." I looked at her in surprise. "You believe me?" She nodded. "Because I have been having dreams." My heart sank. "What dreams?" Lily hugged herself and said, "In one dream, I was wearing a silver dress and crying in a bathroom. Claire was outside the door, telling me I ruined everything." She paused. "In another dream, I was in a car. It was raining and someone was following me." Her voice trembled. "Last night, I dreamed that I was lying on the road and you were screaming my name." The room became silent. Lily looked at me and asked, "Ethan, who exactly is Claire?" I thought of Claire's smile. I thought of her saying, "Some people get hurt because they stand too close to you." I said, "I don't know, but I think she has lived this before." The next morning, I went to the clock tower alone. At least Claire thought I was alone. Lily hid near the old fountain across the courtyard. Daniel, who should have been resting in the hospital, sat in a parked car near the east gate with one arm in a sling, holding his phone to record. I told him not to come. He said, "You keep attracting dangerous women. Someone has to be the normal person here." Claire was already waiting under the clock tower. She wore white. She always wore white when she wanted to look innocent. The clock rang 9 times. The birds flew out again. This time, I did not look at the birds. I looked at Claire. She looked at me and asked, "Do you remember now?" I said nothing. She stepped closer. "You must remember something, otherwise you would not look at me like this." "Like what?" "Like I am a monster." I looked at her and asked, "Are you?" Claire's eyes instantly became red. "I have done everything for you." "No, you have done everything to keep me." Her face stiffened. "You don't understand." "Then explain." Claire looked around the courtyard. Many students were passing by far away, completely unaware of what was happening here. Claire lowered her voice. "The first timeline was normal." I stared at her. She continued, "You and I met here. We became friends. I loved you. I thought if I stayed by your side long enough, you would eventually love me too." Her eyes dimmed. "But you didn't." I asked because of Lily. Claire's expression changed. "You met her in Professor Ellison's seminar, just like this time, just like every time." "How many times?" Claire did not answer. I asked again, "Claire, how many times have you reset everything?" She lowered her eyes. "I stopped counting after 200. My whole body became cold. "Give me the number." After a long silence, she whispered, 237. 237. She had lived my life 237 times. She had watched me make choices 237 times. And every time I did not choose her, she reset everything. I asked, "How many people did you hurt?" Claire looked at me and said, I saved you. How many? Her voice became cold. Anyone who took you away from the right ending. People are not obstacles, Claire. They are when they take you from me. Hearing this, I finally understood. Claire did not think she was evil. She thought she was devoted. That was what made her so terrifying. What happened in the first timeline? I asked. Claire looked up at the clock tower. You married Lily. Her voice was very soft. I stood in the back of the church and watched you kiss her. You looked happier than I had ever seen you. I thought I would die from jealousy. So you reset time. No, I didn't know I could do that yet. Then when? Claire looked at me. The night you died. I froze. She said you were 32. There was an accident on the bridge. Lily was crying. Daniel was covered in blood. I held you before the ambulance came, but even when you were dying, you were still looking for Lily. Her eyes reddened again. That was when I made a wish. I wished I could go back. And then I opened my eyes here. Under the clock tower. I slowly clenched my fists. After that, you tried to save me. Claire shook her head. I tried to make things right. No, you tried to make me love you. Her eyes flashed. What is the difference? I stared at her. At that moment, I realized she really did not know the difference. I asked, what about Daniel? He survives in most timelines. Most? Claire frowned. You always care too much about him. And Lily? At Lily's name, Claire's face turned cold. She is the reason every timeline breaks. No, Claire, you are. Claire's face turned pale, as if I had slapped her. Just then, Lily walked out from behind the fountain. Claire slowly turned her head. When she saw Lily, her expression became terrifyingly calm. You brought her. Lily raised her chin. I brought myself. Claire laughed softly. You always do this. Lily frowned. What? Claire stared at her. You always think standing beside him makes you brave. Lily's hands were shaking, but she did not move back. Claire suddenly said, in timeline 46, you wore a moon necklace. Ethan gave it to you for your birthday. Lily's face changed. In timeline 82, your mother died and you cut your hair short. Ethan told you that you looked stronger and you cried for an hour. Stop, Lily whispered. In timeline 119, you begged me not to reset because you were pregnant. My mind went blank. Pregnant? Lily staggered. Claire looked at me and smiled sadly. You had a daughter once, Ethan. She had your eyes. My heart felt like it had been stabbed. What happened to her? Claire's smile disappeared. That timeline reset. I stared at her. You killed my child. Claire shouted. She was not supposed to exist. Lily cried. You don't get to decide that. Claire looked at Lily with hatred. You don't know anything. You win every time without trying. You appear with your messy hair and stupid jokes, and Ethan chooses you. Do you know what it feels like to lose him again and again? Lily's voice trembled. Maybe that means he was never yours. Claire went silent. Then she smiled. It was a gentle smile. But my whole body became cold. You're right, Claire said softly. I have been too patient. The clock tower suddenly rang once. But it was not 9 o'clock anymore. It was 9:17. The exact time she had texted me that night. The air around us seemed to twist. Daniel shouted from far away. Lily reached out toward me. Claire looked at me with tears in her eyes. Ethan, I'm sorry. Then the whole world turned white. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my dorm room. Sunlight shone on the floor. Daniel was sleeping on the bed across from me. My phone buzzed. I picked it up with trembling hands. March 28th. Thursday. Again. Claire's message appeared on the screen. Good morning. Don't forget lunch with Daniel today. Then another message. I'll come too. I slowly turned my head to look at Daniel. He was alive. No injury. No stitches. No sling. I rushed over and shook him. Daniel, wake up. He groaned. Unless you brought coffee, I am dead. Daniel, wake up. He opened his eyes impatiently. But the moment he saw my face, his expression changed. After a few seconds, he whispered. She reset it. My breathing stopped. You remember. Daniel sat up slowly and touched his forehead. I remember being hit by a car. I remember the hospital. I remember the clock tower. I remember Claire saying Lily was pregnant in another timeline. He looked at me. Ethan, what the hell is going on? My phone buzzed again. Claire sent another message. Ethan. Then another. Please don't make this hard. Daniel looked at the screen and asked, what do we do now? I stared at Claire's message. Fear was still there. But now, besides fear, there was something else. Claire reset everything because the truth came out. That meant she was afraid of the truth. And if she was afraid, then she was not unbeatable. I picked up the phone and replied, See you at lunch. Daniel stared at me. Are you crazy? I smiled coldly. She wants me to follow the script. I pressed send. Then I looked at Daniel. So we will give her the script she wants. Daniel frowned and then. My smile slowly disappeared. While she is watching me, we find Lily first. Because this time, I would not wait for Claire to erase the people I cared about one by one. This time, I would break her timeline. Even if I had to die again. After I sent that message to Claire, the dorm room fell into silence. Daniel sat on his bed, staring at me as if I had lost my mind. Ethan, do you know what you just did? I put my phone down and looked at him. I told her what she wanted to hear. Daniel frowned. That is exactly what scares me. I knew what he meant. Claire had reset the entire day because Lily appeared at the clock tower. She had erased Daniel's injuries, erased the hospital, erased the conversation, and erased the truth from everyone except Daniel and me. But she had made one mistake. She thought resetting time would put me back into her control. Unfortunately for her, Daniel and I still remembered. That meant this timeline was no longer completely hers. I walked to the window and looked outside. Students were walking across campus, laughing and talking. The morning sunlight fell on the old brick buildings, making everything look peaceful and normal. But I knew this peace was fake. Under this ordinary day, Claire was watching everything. Maybe she was already waiting for me at the noodle shop. Maybe she had already guessed that I would look for Lily. Maybe she had prepared another accident. Daniel got out of bed and grabbed his jacket. Where are you going? I asked. To help you find Lily. I looked at the bandage that no longer existed on his forehead. In the last timeline, he had almost died because of me. Daniel seemed to understand what I was thinking. Don't look at me like that. I already got hit by a car once today. Technically, that means I am hard to kill. I said coldly, this is not funny. Daniel's smile faded. I know it is not funny, but if Claire can reset everything, then hiding will not save me. At least if I am with you, I know what is happening. I wanted to refuse him. But I knew he was right. Claire was not targeting people because they were weak. She targeted anyone who stood too close to me. And now Daniel had already become one of those people. I nodded. Fine, but we do this carefully. Daniel picked up his phone. First step, call Lily. I shook my head. No, if Claire can predict patterns, she will expect us to call her. Then what? I thought for a moment. We go to Professor Ellison's seminar early. Lily will be there. Daniel looked at me. And Claire? I picked up my bag. Claire thinks I am going to lunch. So before lunch we move first. Daniel gave me a complicated look. Ethan, you are starting to sound like a criminal. I smiled faintly. No, I am just learning from Claire. When Daniel and I arrived at Professor Ellison's building, there were still 40 minutes before class started. The hallway was almost empty. Only a few students sat on benches, looking at laptops or drinking coffee. Daniel lowered his voice. Do you see Lily? I shook my head. Not yet. We waited near the lecture room door. Every few seconds, I looked down the hallway. I had never realized before how terrifying waiting could be. Every footstep made my heart tighten. Every passing student made me wonder if Claire had sent them. Daniel leaned against the wall and pretended to look relaxed, but his eyes kept scanning the hallway. After 20 minutes, Lily finally appeared. She was carrying too many books again. Her hair was slightly messy, and a pencil was tucked behind her ear. Seeing her alive and safe, I felt my chest loosen. I immediately walked toward her. Lily. She looked up surprised. Ethan, Daniel, why are you both standing here like bodyguards? Daniel said seriously, because we are very professional bodyguards. Lily smiled, but when she saw my expression, the smile slowly disappeared. You remember too, don't you? I asked. Lily's fingers tightened around her books. She glanced around, then said softly, not everything, but I remember the clock tower. My throat tightened. What else? She lowered her voice. I remember Claire talking about timelines. I remember her saying I was pregnant in one of them. Her face turned pale. And I remember the world turning white. Daniel cursed under his breath. So it is not just us. Lily looked at me. Ethan, what is happening? Before I could answer, a familiar voice sounded behind us. You are early today. My whole body stiffened. I turned around. Claire was standing at the end of the hallway. She wore a white coat and held a cup of coffee in her hand. Her expression was calm. Too calm. It was as if she had been waiting there for a long time. Daniel stepped forward instinctively, blocking half of me and Lily. Claire's eyes moved to him. Daniel, she said lightly, you should be careful. Your body is not as strong as you think. Daniel's face changed. Even though his injuries had disappeared after the reset, he still remembered the pain. Claire smiled. Then her gaze landed on Lily. Lily, why do you always appear where you are not wanted? Lily raised her chin. Maybe because Ethan wants me here. The smile on Claire's face disappeared. The hallway became so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat. I stepped forward and said, Claire, stop. She looked at me immediately. Ethan, I told you to see me at lunch. I said, and I will. Then why are you here? Because I wanted to attend class. Claire looked at me quietly. Her eyes were gentle, but her voice was cold. Do not lie to me. I almost laughed. After everything she had done, she still spoke as if she was the one being betrayed. I said, Claire, you do not own my schedule. Her fingers tightened around the coffee cup. For a moment, the paper cup bent slightly in her hand. Then she smiled again. Of course, I'm just worried about you. Daniel said, funny. People around Ethan usually get hurt after you say that. Claire looked at him. Daniel Cross, Your family has always taught you to stay out of other people's business. Why did you never learn? Daniel smiled coldly. Maybe because my family also taught me not to let lunatics control my friends. Claire's eyes darkened. The coffee cup in her hand slipped. Hot coffee spilled onto the floor. At the same time, someone at the other end of the hallway shouted, "Watch out!" A maintenance ladder that had been leaning against the wall suddenly tilted. It fell straight toward Lily. Everything happened too fast. I grabbed Lily and pulled her into my arms. The ladder crashed to the floor beside us with a loud bang. Students screamed. Daniel stared at the fallen ladder, his face pale. I looked at Claire. She was still standing there. There was no surprise on her face. Only disappointment. As if this was not the result she wanted. Lily trembled in my arms. "Ethan, did she?" Claire interrupted softly. "Accidents happen." I clenched my fists. Daniel stepped toward her. "You call that an accident?" Claire looked at him and smiled. "Daniel, if you keep interfering, the next accident may not miss." The surrounding students did not understand what she meant. But we understood. Daniel's face turned ugly. I held Lily's wrist and said, "We are leaving." Claire's eyes moved to our joined hands. Her expression changed instantly. "Ethan, let go of her." I ignored her and pulled Lily away. But before we could take 2 steps, Claire spoke again. "If you leave with her, someone else will pay the price." I stopped. My back stiffened. Claire's voice was still gentle. "You know I am not lying." Lily whispered, "Ethan, don't listen to her." Daniel also said, "She is threatening you." Of course I knew Claire was threatening me. But the problem was, her threats were real. She had already proved it. Claire walked toward me step by step. "Ethan, I have lived this day many times. I know where every car will turn, where every glass will fall, who will trip, who will bleed, and who will die." Her voice became softer. "You cannot protect everyone." I slowly turned around. Claire looked at me with red eyes. "So stop making me prove it." I looked at her for a long time. Then I let go of Lily's wrist. Lily looked at me in disbelief. "Ethan," I said quietly, "go to class." She shook her head. "No." I looked at Daniel. "Take her inside." Daniel understood immediately. He grabbed Lily's arm. Lily struggled. "Ethan, don't go with her." I gave her a faint smile. "I won't be long." Claire's expression finally softened. She walked to my side and naturally reached out to hold my arm. I avoided her hand. Her smile froze. But she did not say anything. We walked away from the lecture building together. Behind me, Lily called my name. I did not look back. Because I was afraid that if I did, Claire would hurt her right there. Claire took me to the garden behind the old music hall. This place was very quiet. Few students came here during class hours. There was a stone bench under a large oak tree. Claire sat down first, then patted the empty space beside her. "Sit." I stood where I was and did not move. Claire looked up at me. "Ethan, why do you always make things difficult?" I said coldly, "Because I am not your puppet." Her eyes trembled slightly. "I never treated you as a puppet." "Then what am I?" "The person I love." I laughed. "Claire, love does not reset someone's life 237 times." Her face turned pale. "You remember the number." "I remember everything you said." "Then you should understand how much I suffered." I looked at her in disbelief. "You suffered?" Claire stood up, tears gathering in her eyes. Do you think resetting time is easy? Do you think watching you die is easy? Do you think seeing you fall in love with Lily again and again does not hurt? I said, then stop watching. She froze. I continued, let me live my own life. Let me choose. Let me make mistakes. Let me die if that is my ending. Claire suddenly shouted no. Birds flew up from the tree. Her breathing became rapid. No, I will not watch you die again. I said word by word, you are not saving me. You are trapping me. Claire shook her head. You only say that because you do not remember enough. I frowned. What do you mean? She wiped her tears and smiled faintly. Your memories are incomplete. If you remembered all the timelines, you would know Lily is not as innocent as you think. I knew she was trying to provoke me. But I still asked, what did Lily do? Claire's smile deepened. In some timelines, she left you. I said people are allowed to leave. In some timelines, she chose her career over you. That is her right. In one timeline, she testified against you in court. My expression finally changed. Claire saw it and smiled. See, you do care. I said coldly, what court? Claire walked closer. Timeline 164. You were accused of leaking confidential documents from the Whitmore Group. Lily testified that she saw you enter the records room. My brows furrowed. Did I do it? No. Then who framed me? Claire did not answer. I stared at her. It was you. Claire's smile froze. I took a step toward her. You framed me, then blamed Lily because she told the truth she saw. Claire's eyes flashed with panic. That timeline was complicated. No, it was simple. You destroyed my life because I would not choose you. Claire grabbed my sleeve. Ethan, I did it because that version of you was going to leave the country with Lily. If you left, I could not protect you. I shook her hand off. You do not need to protect me from freedom. For a moment, Claire looked at me as if she could not understand what I was saying. Then she laughed softly. Freedom. Her voice was filled with bitterness. You always talk about freedom right before you get yourself killed. I looked at her. Claire, how did I die in the first timeline? Her expression changed. I already told you, the bridge accident. Who caused it? Claire turned away. It was raining. The road was slippery. Who caused it? She did not speak. I grabbed her wrist. Claire, tell me the truth. Was it really an accident? Her face turned completely white. That silence told me everything. My heart sank. You caused it. Claire immediately shook her head. No, I didn't mean to. My grip tightened. What did you do? She started trembling. I only wanted to stop you from leaving. You and Lily were going to move away after your wedding anniversary. I just wanted your car delayed. I arranged for someone to block the bridge road. My mind went blank. But the truck lost control, she whispered. I did not know that would happen. I slowly let go of her wrist. So the first timeline did not reset because fate killed me. Claire's lips trembled. It reset because you killed me. She cried and reached for me. Ethan, I didn't mean to. I swear I didn't mean to. I stepped back. Don't touch me. Her hand froze in the air. For the first time, I saw true fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing control. Fear that I finally saw her clearly. I turned and walked away. Behind me, Claire shouted, Ethan, if you go back to her, this will only get worse. I did not stop. Her voice became sharp. Every time you leave me, someone dies. I turned my head and looked at her coldly. Then maybe you should stop killing people. Claire stood under the oak tree, her face pale like a ghost. I left without looking back again. When I returned to Professor Ellison's building, class had already ended. Daniel and Lily were waiting near the back exit. Seeing me return alone, Lily immediately ran over. "Ethan, are you okay?" I nodded. Daniel looked behind me. "Where is Claire?" "In the garden." Daniel let out a breath. "Good. I was worried she had dragged you into some underground time dungeon." I looked at him. Daniel, the bridge accident in the first timeline was not an accident. His smile disappeared. "What?" I told them what Claire said. After hearing it, Lily's face lost all color. "So you died because of her?" I said. "She claims she only wanted to delay me." Daniel cursed. "That woman is insane." Lily's eyes reddened. "Ethan, if that is true, then all of this started because she could not accept that you chose a life without her." I nodded. That was also when I finally understood. Claire was not cursed because she loved me. She was cursed because she destroyed me and then refused to accept the result. Daniel suddenly said, "Wait." He took out his phone. If Claire arranged someone to block the bridge in the first timeline, that means she used real people. Maybe the same people exist in this timeline. Lily's eyes lit up slightly. "If we can find them, we can prove what she did." I frowned. "But the first timeline happened 10 years in the future." Daniel said maybe, but Claire came from a powerful family. People who do dirty work for families like hers do not appear out of nowhere. There may already be someone around her. At that moment, Lily suddenly remembered something. "The black car." I looked at her. "What black car?" She said, "In my dream, the one where I was being followed in the rain, there was a black car behind me. I could not see the driver clearly, but there was a silver wolf emblem hanging from the mirror." Daniel's expression changed. "Silver wolf?" I asked. "You know it?" Daniel nodded slowly. "There is a private security company called Silver Wolf. My father mentioned them before. They do not just do security. They handle things rich families do not want connected to them." Lily whispered, "Do you think Claire used them?" I said coldly, "We need to find out." Daniel quickly searched on his phone. Silver Wolf Security had an office downtown. The strange thing was, one of their listed board investors was a shell company connected to the Whitmore family. Daniel looked at me. "There it is." Lily clenched her fists. "Then we go there." I immediately shook my head. "No, it is too dangerous." Lily looked at me angrily. "Ethan, Claire already dragged me into this. You do not get to protect me by pushing me away." I wanted to say something, but Daniel raised his hand. "I hate to say this, but she is right. Also, if we split up, Claire can pick us off one by one." At that moment my phone buzzed. It was Claire. "Do not go downtown." The three of us stared at the screen. A second message came. "I am warning you for the last time." Daniel swallowed. "How does she know?" Lily looked around instinctively. I suddenly realized something and turned my head. Across the street, a black car was parked under a tree. There was no one in the driver's seat. But on the rearview mirror, something silver flashed. A wolf emblem. My expression changed. "Run!" The moment I said that, the black car's engine started. Daniel grabbed Lily and ran toward the alley behind the building. I followed them. The black car rushed forward. Students screamed and scattered. The car did not care about them. It came straight for us. Daniel shouted, "This way." We turned into the narrow alley. The black car could not enter, but its door opened. Two men in black suits got out and chased after us. Lily's face was pale, but she did not slow down. We ran through the alley and entered the old library side entrance. Daniel knew the building well. He led us through a storage corridor and up the emergency stairs. The footsteps behind us got closer and closer. Lily suddenly tripped. I grabbed her waist and pulled her up. "Are you okay?" She nodded quickly. "Go." We ran to the second floor. Daniel pushed open a door and pulled us into an empty archive room. He locked the door from inside. The three of us hid behind a row of old shelves. Outside, footsteps stopped. Someone tried the door handle. "Locked." A man's voice sounded. "They came this way." Another voice answered. Miss Whitmore said not to hurt him. My whole body went cold. Him, not them. Claire only cared whether I was hurt. As for Daniel and Lily, she did not care at all. The first man said, "What about the other two?" A short silence. Then the second man said coldly, "No instructions." Lily's breathing stopped. Daniel's face became extremely ugly. The footsteps slowly moved away. But none of us dared to move. After a long time, Daniel whispered, "We need to get out of campus." I nodded. Lily looked at me. "No instructions. That means they can hurt us." I clenched my fists. Claire had said she loved me. But her love was a circle drawn around me with other people's blood. At that moment, my phone buzzed again. "Claire." "Ethan, you made me do this." I stared at the message. Then another came. "Come to me alone, and I will let them go." Daniel snatched the phone from my hand. "Absolutely not." Lily also shook her head. "Ethan, if you go, she will never let you leave." I knew. Of course I knew. But outside this door, Claire's people were waiting. If I did not go, Daniel and Lily might really die. I suddenly thought of what Claire had said. Every time you leave me, someone dies. Maybe in the past 237 timelines, she had used this method again and again. Threatening me. Trapping me. Making me choose between my freedom and the safety of the people I loved. No wonder so many timelines ended in tragedy. It was never fate. It was Claire. I took my phone back and typed. "Where?" Claire replied instantly. "The old theater, come alone." Daniel grabbed my wrist. "Ethan, don't." I looked at him. "Listen to me. I am not going there to surrender." "Then what?" I looked at Lily. "Claire thinks I will sacrifice myself to protect you." Lily's eyes trembled. "Won't you?" I smiled faintly. "I did that in too many timelines. This time, I want to try something different." Daniel frowned. "What are you planning?" I said, "Claire is watching me. Her men are watching the exits, but she does not know one thing." "What?" I looked at Daniel. "You recorded everything at the clock tower before she reset." Daniel's face changed. "But the reset erased my phone." I shook my head. "Your phone, yes, but you were live streaming to your family cloud account. You told me your family uses automatic backup for security." Daniel froze. Then he immediately checked his cloud account. A few seconds later, his face changed. "It is here." Lily covered her mouth. "The video." Daniel nodded. "Not all of it. The ending is corrupted, but it caught Claire saying she reset time 237 times. It caught her saying Lily appeared in every timeline. It caught her mentioning the first timeline." My eyes became cold. "Enough." Daniel looked at me. "What do we do with it?" I said, "Send it to someone Claire cannot control." Daniel immediately understood. My father, Daniel's father, Victor Cross, was one of the few people in the city powerful enough not to fear the Whitmore family. Daniel sent the file. Then he typed a short message. Dad, if anything happens to me, Ethan, or Lily, release this publicly and investigate Silver Wolf Security and Claire Whitmore. After sending it, Daniel let out a long breath. Done. At almost the same time, my phone buzzed again. Claire. Ethan, why is Daniel contacting his father? The three of us froze. She knew. She knew again. Then another message came. You should not have done that. Before I could react, loud footsteps sounded outside the archive room. The men had returned. This time, they did not try the door handle. They kicked the door open. The old lock broke instantly. Daniel pushed Lily behind him. I stepped forward. Two men in black suits entered the room. One of them looked at me. Mr. Hayes, Miss Whitmore asks you to come with us. I said coldly, and if I refuse? The man's gaze moved to Daniel and Lily. Then we will take away the people making you refuse. Daniel whispered Ethan. My fists tightened. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps came from the hallway. A deep male voice rang out. Touch my son, and I will make Silver Wolf disappear by sunrise. The two men froze. I turned my head. A middle-aged man in a dark suit walked in with several bodyguards behind him. His face was stern, and his eyes were cold. Daniel let out a breath. Dad. Victor Cross glanced at him. You look terrible. Daniel said, I got hit by a car in another timeline. Give me a break. Victor's expression did not change. We will discuss your nonsense later. Then he looked at the two Silver Wolf men. Leave. The men hesitated. Victor took out his phone and said coldly, I have already sent your company's investor records, illegal surveillance logs, and payment links to 3 regulators. If you want to continue standing here, I do not mind adding kidnapping to the file. The two men's faces changed. They looked at each other, then quickly left. Only after they disappeared did Lily finally breathe again. Victor looked at me. You are Ethan. I nodded. Yes, Mr. Cross. Daniel sent me a very interesting video. His eyes narrowed. I do not know whether I should send you all to a hospital or a priest. Daniel muttered, honestly, both might help. Victor ignored him and looked at me. Claire Whitmore is looking for you. She has people at every campus gate. My car is downstairs. Come with me first. I asked, what about Lily? Victor glanced at Lily. She comes too. If the Whitmore girl wants her gone, then Miss Morgan is safer with us. I finally relaxed slightly. But at that moment my phone rang. It was Claire calling. The room became silent. Victor looked at the screen. Answer it. I answered and turned on speaker. Claire's voice came through the phone. Ethan. Her voice was very calm. Too calm. I said, Claire, it's over. She laughed softly. Over? Then her voice became gentle. Ethan, do you think bringing in the Cross family changes anything? Victor's face darkened. Claire continued, I have seen Victor Cross die of a heart attack in timeline 73. I have seen Daniel drown in timeline 112. I have seen Lily disappear so thoroughly that even her mother forgot her face. Lily's face turned white. Claire sighed softly. You still do not understand. I do not need to win today. I only need to reset. I said coldly, then why haven't you reset already? There was silence on the other end. I continued, because it costs you something, doesn't it? Daniel looked at me sharply. Claire did not speak. I remembered the exhaustion in her eyes, the trembling in her hands, the way she only reset when the situation had truly gone out of control. I said slowly, every reset hurts you. Maybe it takes your memories. Maybe it takes your lifespan. Maybe it takes pieces of your mind. Claire's breathing changed. I guessed right. My voice became colder. That is why you keep trying to force the timeline back without resetting, because you cannot afford to do it forever. Claire suddenly laughed. At first it was soft. Then it became sharper. Ethan, you are getting smarter earlier this time. Earlier? That word made my heart sink. She had seen versions of me reach this conclusion before. Then she whispered, but you are still too late. Before I could ask what she meant, Victor's phone rang. He answered it. A few seconds later, his expression changed. Daniel noticed immediately. Dad. Victor slowly put down the phone. His face was grim. The Cross family servers were attacked. Daniel's face changed. The video. Victor said, deleted. The room fell silent. Claire's soft voice came from my phone. Ethan, I told you, I have done this before. My hand tightened around the phone. Claire said gently, now come to the old theater. I did not answer. Her voice became even softer. Or this time, Lily's mother will be the one who has an accident. Lily's face instantly turned pale. My eyes widened. Claire, do not be angry. I have not done anything yet. She paused, then said with a smile, but you know I can. Lily grabbed my arm. Ethan, my mom, I looked at her trembling hands. Then I looked at Daniel. Then Victor. Claire had lost the video, but she still had another card. She always had another card. That was why she had won so many times. Because she did not fight fairly. She used love, fear, guilt, family, and death. She turned every choice into a knife. Claire's voice came again. Come alone, Ethan. This time, do not make me wait. Then she hung up. For a long time, no one spoke. Finally, Lily said with a trembling voice, I need to call my mother. She dialed immediately. The first call did not connect. The second call also did not connect. By the third call, Lily was shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. Finally, someone answered. Mom. A woman's gentle voice came from the phone. Lily, what's wrong? Lily almost cried. Where are you? At home, why? Lily looked at me with relief. But before she could speak again, another sound came through the phone. The doorbell. Lily froze. Her mother said, someone is at the door. Lily shouted immediately, don't open it. But it was too late. Through the phone, we heard the sound of the door opening. Then a strange man's voice said politely, Mrs. Morgan, we are from Silver Wolf Security. Your daughter asked us to pick you up. Lily screamed, Mom, run. The call suddenly cut off. Lily's face turned white. She almost fell and I caught her. Claire's message appeared on my phone. Old theater, 10 minutes. I stared at the screen. For the first time, I felt a hatred so strong that my whole body trembled. Daniel said, Ethan, we can still call the police. Victor shook his head grimly. Not enough time, and if Silver Wolf is involved, some people may already have been bought. Lily grabbed my sleeve. Ethan, please, my mother. I held her hand and said softly, I will bring her back. Daniel said, I am going with you. No. Ethan, I looked at him. Claire asked me to come alone. If she sees you, she may hurt Lily's mother immediately. Daniel clenched his teeth. Then what are we supposed to do? I turned to Victor. Can you find Lily's mother's location? Victor nodded. If her phone is still on, yes. I said, then you go after Mrs. Morgan. Daniel and Lily stay with you. Lily immediately shook her head. No, I am not hiding while you go to Claire. I looked at her. Lily, if Claire wanted to kill me, she would have done it long ago. She wants me alive. Then Lily's tears fell. That is what scares me. I could not answer. Because I was scared too. Victor ordered his people to move. Daniel grabbed my shoulder. Ethan, listen to me. Do not trust anything she says. She knows how to twist your head. I nodded. I know. Daniel's eyes reddened. And do not die. I am tired of remembering you dying in places I have never been. I forced a smile. I will try. Lily stepped forward. She looked like she had many things to say, but in the end, she only took off the small bracelet from her wrist and tied it around mine. In the dreams, she whispered, I always lost you when I let you walk away with nothing of mine. Her fingers trembled. So take this. I looked at the bracelet on my wrist. For some reason, a sharp pain suddenly flashed through my head. A church. A white dress. A small child laughing. Lily standing under sunlight, tying this same bracelet around my wrist. Ethan, don't forget to come home early. The memory disappeared as quickly as it came. But my chest hurt so much I could barely breathe. Lily looked at me. You remembered something. I nodded slowly. You gave this to me before. Her tears fell harder. Then come back and tell me about it. I held her hand tightly for 1 second. Then I turned and left. The old theater was on the west side of campus. It had been closed for years because of safety issues. The building was covered in vines, and the windows were dark. When I arrived, the front door was open. It was like the mouth of a monster waiting for me to walk in. My phone buzzed. Claire, come inside. I walked in. The air smelled of dust and old wood. Rows of broken seats stretched into the darkness. On the stage, a single lamp was lit. Claire sat in the center of the stage. She was wearing the same white coat as before. Beside her was an old projector. When she saw me, she smiled gently. Ethan, you came. I looked around. Where is Lily's mother? Claire sighed. Always asking about others first. I said coldly, where is she? She is safe for now. For now. I walked toward the stage. Claire stood up. Do not come too close. I know you are angry. I stopped. She looked at the bracelet on my wrist. Her expression instantly changed. Lily gave you that. I did not answer. Claire's eyes became red. She gave you that in timeline 119 too. My heart tightened. Claire slowly walked toward the projector. Would you like to see? Before I could speak, she turned it on. The dusty screen behind her lit up. At first, the image was blurry. Then it became clear. It was me. Older. Standing in a small living room. Lily was beside me, holding a baby girl. The baby laughed and reached for my face. My entire body froze. Claire's voice sounded softly. Your daughter. On the screen, I smiled in a way I had never seen before. Happy. Completely happy. Lily laughed and said something to me, but there was no sound. The baby grabbed my finger. My eyes burned. Claire watched my expression, tears sliding down her face. Do you see it now? She whispered. I turned to her. Why are you showing me this? Her voice trembled. Because you need to understand what Lily costs you. I stared at her. This looks like happiness. Claire suddenly shouted, "It ended with you dead." The theater echoed with her voice. She pointed at the screen. This was the timeline where she begged me not to reset. This was the timeline where you had a child. This was the timeline where you were happiest. Her face twisted. And 3 months after this recording, you died. My heart sank. How? Claire looked at me and smiled sadly. You were protecting them. The screen changed. This time it showed a rainy street. A car. A flash of headlights. Then the image went black. Claire whispered, "Every road with Lily ends with your death." I clenched my fists. And every road with you starts with someone else's suffering. Claire shook her head. No, with me you survive. I looked at her coldly. Is survival the same as living? Claire froze. At that moment, my phone vibrated silently in my pocket. A message from Daniel appeared. Mrs. Morgan found, alive. Silver Wolf men detained, keep her talking. Relief almost made my knees weak. But I did not show it. Claire was still staring at me. I asked, "Why did you bring me here?" She wiped her tears. Because this is where you always start remembering. My heart tightened. What? Claire smiled faintly. The old theater, the winter gala, the balcony, your first death after you began remembering. Daniel's words echoed in my mind. You wore a black suit, Claire wore red, Lily was there too, someone fell from the balcony. You. I slowly looked up. Above the stage was an old balcony. The railing was broken in several places. Claire followed my gaze. In timeline 89, you remembered almost everything here. You told everyone what I had done. You tried to leave with Lily. She lowered her eyes. Then you fell. My voice became cold. Did I fall or did you push me? Claire did not answer. I laughed softly. Of course. Claire suddenly became anxious. I didn't mean for you to die. I only wanted to stop you. You keep saying that. Because it is true. I looked at her. Claire, how many times have you accidentally killed me while trying to keep me? Her lips trembled. She did not answer. That was answer enough. My phone buzzed again. Daniel. Police coming, get out. Claire seemed to notice something. Her eyes narrowed. Who is texting you? I put the phone back calmly. No one. Do not lie to me. She walked toward me quickly. I stepped back. Claire, it is over. Lily's mother is safe. Her face changed completely. No. I continued. Silver Wolf failed. Victor Cross has evidence. The police are coming. Claire stared at me. Then she suddenly laughed. At first it was quiet. Then it became louder and more broken. Ethan, why do you keep forcing me? I felt the air around us change. The same feeling as before. The same invisible pressure before a reset. I said sharply, Claire, don't. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. If this timeline is ruined, then I will just start again. I rushed toward her. But she was faster. She pulled a small silver blade from her sleeve and cut across her own palm. Blood dripped onto the stage. The theater lights flickered. My head exploded with pain. Memories rushed into my mind. A bridge. A wedding. A hospital. A child's laugh. Daniel screaming my name. Lily crying in the rain. Claire wearing red, standing above me on a balcony. Ethan, why won't you just love me? I fell to my knees. Claire walked toward me and gently held my face with her bloody hand. See, she whispered. You are remembering. The whole theater began to shake. Dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Claire smiled through her tears. Don't worry, Ethan. Her voice was the same as the day she died in my arms. Next time I will get it right. The world began to turn white. But this time, before everything disappeared, I grabbed her wrist. Claire's eyes widened. I forced myself to stand despite the pain tearing through my skull. No, I said through gritted teeth. Her face changed. Ethan. I tightened my grip. This time, you are not resetting alone. For the first time, Claire looked truly terrified. The white light swallowed us both. When I opened my eyes again, I was not in my dorm room. I was not under the clock tower. I was standing in the middle of a church. White flowers covered the aisle. Guests filled the seats. Music played softly. At the altar, Lily stood in a wedding dress, holding my hands. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and smiled. Ethan, why are you looking at me like that? My whole body froze. This was not the present. This was not March 28th. This was one of the past timelines. Then from the back of the church, I heard a familiar voice. Cold. Gentle. Broken. No. I turned my head. Claire stood at the entrance of the church, wearing a black dress. Her eyes were full of hatred. She stared at Lily. Then she looked at me. Ethan, she said slowly, you were not supposed to remember this one. When I opened my eyes, I was standing inside a church. White flowers covered both sides of the aisle. Sunlight came in through the stained glass windows, falling on the floor in pieces of gold and red. There were guests sitting on both sides. Some faces I recognized. Some faces I had never seen before. Soft music echoed in the church. And in front of me, Lily Morgan stood in a wedding dress. No, not Lily Morgan. Lily Hayes. My wife. That thought appeared in my mind so naturally that my heart almost stopped. Lily held my hands and looked at me with a nervous smile. Ethan, why are you looking at me like that? I stared at her. Her hair was tied up behind her head. There were small white flowers pinned into it. Her eyes were slightly red, as if she had just cried from happiness. This was Lily. But not the Lily from Harrington University. This Lily was older, softer, more mature. And when she looked at me, her eyes were full of love that had already gone through many years. My throat tightened. I wanted to speak, but no words came out. The priest in front of us looked at me with confusion. Mr. Hayes. The guests below began whispering. Lily squeezed my hand gently. Ethan, are you okay? Before I could answer, a familiar voice sounded from the church entrance. No. That one word made the entire church quiet. I slowly turned my head. Claire stood at the entrance of the church. She was wearing a black dress. Her long hair fell over her shoulders and her face was pale. Her eyes were fixed on Lily, full of hatred. Then she looked at me. Ethan, she said slowly, you were not supposed to remember this one. My whole body froze. This was not a dream. This was one of the erased timelines. The 119th timeline. The one where I married Lily. The one where we had a daughter. The one Claire had reset because she could not accept it. Lily looked at Claire and frowned. Claire, why are you here? Claire smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was a smile full of pain and madness. Why am I here? Lily, you are asking why I am here. She walked forward step by step. The guests began to stand up. Daniel, who was sitting in the front row, immediately stood and blocked her path. "Claire, this is Ethan and Lily's wedding. If you came to cause trouble, leave now." Hearing Daniel's voice, my heart shook. Daniel was alive. He was older, too. His hair was styled neatly, and he was wearing a black suit, but the way he looked at Claire was the same as always. Impatient. Protective. Like he wanted to throw her out with his own hands. Claire looked at Daniel and laughed softly. Daniel cross, always standing in the way. Daniel frowned. "What are you talking about?" Claire ignored him and looked straight at me. "Ethan, come here." The guests gasped. Lily's hand tightened around mine. I looked at Claire coldly. "Why would I go to you?" Claire's face stiffened. "Because this is wrong." Her voice trembled. "This wedding is wrong. This timeline is wrong. She is wrong." Lily's face turned pale. "Claire, what are you saying?" Claire pointed at Lily. "You took him from me." Daniel said angrily, "Ethan was never yours." Claire's expression twisted instantly. "He was supposed to be." I slowly understood. In this timeline, Claire had not reset yet. This was the moment before everything began to collapse. But why had I come here? When Claire tried to reset at the old theater, I grabbed her wrist. So instead of returning to March 28th, we had both fallen into this erased timeline. But was this the real past? Or only a memory? I did not know. I only knew one thing. If Claire was here with me, then this timeline was no longer safe. I turned to Lily and whispered, "Stay behind me." Lily looked confused. "Ethan, what is going on?" Before I could explain, Claire suddenly rushed forward. Daniel grabbed her arm. "Claire, enough." Claire slapped him across the face. The sound echoed through the church. Everyone froze. Daniel slowly turned his head back. His expression became completely cold. "Claire Whitmore, have you lost your mind?" Claire screamed, "Yes, I lost my mind a long time ago." Then she looked at me with red eyes. "Ethan, do you know how many times I watched this scene? Do you know how many times I stood outside this church while you promised your life to her?" I said coldly, "Then stop watching." Claire's tears fell. "I can't." "Why?" "Because every time I leave you alone, you die." I laughed. "Claire, I died because of you." Her face changed. The church became quiet. Daniel frowned. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" Lily looked at me uneasily. I realized something. The people in this timeline did not know about the resets. They were only living their lives normally. To them, Claire was just a woman causing trouble at a wedding. Only Claire and I remembered everything. Claire quickly noticed this too. Her lips curled slightly. "Ethan, be careful what you say. If you tell them too much, this timeline may collapse." I stared at her. "What do you mean?" Claire smiled faintly. "You think this place is stable. This timeline was already erased. It only exists because both of us remember it." My heart sank. Claire continued softly, "If you force people here to know things they should not know, the memory will break." Lily held my hand tighter. "Ethan, you are scaring me." I turned to her. Looking at her face, my heart hurt so much that I almost could not breathe. This was the woman I had married in another life. This was the woman I had loved enough to build a family with. But to me now, those memories were broken pieces. I could feel the love, but I could not remember all of it. It was like looking at sunlight through shattered glass. Beautiful. Painful. Incomplete. Claire walked closer. "Ethan, leave with me. If we leave now, I can still take us back." I asked, "Back to where?" "To the real timeline. I said coldly. You mean the timeline you control? Claire shook her head. No, the timeline where I can still save you. I looked at Lily. Then I looked at Claire. I will not leave her. The moment I said that, Claire's expression broke. The church lights flickered. The flowers by the aisle trembled. A low cracking sound came from somewhere above us. Claire clenched her fists. You always say that. The stained glass windows shook. Daniel looked around. What the hell? Claire pointed at Lily and shouted, because of her, you will die in 3 months. Because of that child, you will run into the street and be hit by a car. You will bleed out in the rain while she screams your name. Lily's face turned white. Child. I froze. At that moment, Lily instinctively touched her stomach. The movement was small, but I saw it. Claire saw it too. Her eyes filled with jealousy, so deep it looked like poison. So you know already, Claire whispered. Lily looked at me, tears gathering in her eyes. Ethan, I was going to tell you after the wedding. My mind went blank. Even though Claire had already told me about the child, hearing it from Lily in this timeline still felt completely different. Our child. My daughter. She already existed here. Not as a memory. Not as a recording. Here at this moment she was alive. My hands trembled. I reached out and placed my hand gently over Lily's. For one moment, everything around me disappeared. There was no Claire. No reset. No death. Only Lily standing in front of me, crying and smiling at the same time. Ethan, she whispered, are you happy? My eyes burned. I nodded. Yes. My voice was hoarse. I am happy. Claire suddenly screamed. No. The church shook violently. A crack appeared on one of the stained glass windows. Daniel grabbed Claire from behind. Enough, you are scaring everyone. Claire struggled wildly. Let go of me. Daniel, you do not understand. None of this is real. She is not real. That child is not real. Daniel tightened his grip. You are insane. Claire suddenly stopped struggling. She slowly turned her head and looked at Daniel. Daniel Cross, do you know how you died in timeline 112? Daniel froze. Claire smiled. You drowned trying to save Ethan. I shouted Claire stop. But she continued. He was trapped inside a car sinking into the river. You could have escaped, but you went back for him. How noble. Daniel's face changed. The church lights flickered again. Daniel's eyes became dazed. For a second, pain crossed his face. He remembered. Or at least, the memory tried to enter him. Claire laughed softly. See, this place is fragile. I rushed forward and pulled Daniel away from Claire. Do not listen to her. Daniel held his head, breathing heavily. Ethan, I saw water. His voice trembled. I saw you trapped behind glass. The entire church began to blur around the edges. Guests screamed. The priest dropped his book. Claire smiled through tears. If you keep staying with her, everyone here will remember. And once they remember, this timeline will collapse. I looked at her coldly. Then I will not let you speak. Claire's smile froze. I turned to Daniel. Take Lily out. Daniel still looked pale, but he nodded. Lily grabbed my sleeve. Ethan, come with me. I looked at her. I will. Claire laughed. You won't, you never do. I ignored her. Daniel pulled Lily down the aisle. But just as they reached the church entrance, the doors slammed shut by themselves. The guests screamed again. Claire slowly raised her bloodstained hand. Only then did I realize her palm was still bleeding from the cut she made in the old theater. The blood dripped onto the church floor. Every drop made the air twist. Claire whispered, "This memory belongs to me too." I turned back to her. "You are trapping us here." Claire looked at me with red eyes. "I am stopping you from making the same mistake." The church ceiling cracked. Dust fell. Lily shouted from behind me, "Ethan." I ran to the doors and tried to pull them open. They did not move. Daniel kicked them hard. Still nothing. Claire walked toward us slowly. "Ethan, if you want them to leave safely, come with me." I clenched my fists. "You are using the same trick again." "Because it works." Her words were so direct that even Daniel went silent. Claire continued, "Every time I put you between Lily and safety, you choose safety. You choose sacrifice. You choose to leave her so she can live." She smiled sadly. "That is one of the reasons I love you." I felt disgusted. "You love using my kindness against me." Claire shook her head. "I love that you are kind." "No, you love that I can be controlled." Her face stiffened. Lily suddenly stepped forward. "Ethan is not leaving with you." Claire looked at her. "You still do not understand your place." Lily's voice trembled, but her eyes were firm. "My place is beside my husband." The word husband made Claire's expression completely collapse. She rushed toward Lily. Before she could touch her, I stepped in front of Lily and grabbed Claire's wrist. Claire struggled. "Let go," I said coldly, "not this time." The moment my hand touched her blood, my head exploded with pain. Another memory entered my mind. A small apartment. Lily laughing in the kitchen. Daniel sitting on the sofa, teasing me. A baby crib near the window. I walked over and looked inside. A tiny baby girl slept there, her small fists curled near her face. Lily stood beside me and whispered, "She looks like you." I said, "Poor kid." Lily hit my arm lightly. Daniel said from the sofa, "I agree with Lily, poor kid." We laughed. The memory changed. Rain. Headlights. Lily screaming. I pushed the stroller out of the way. A car rushed toward me. Pain. Blood. Then Claire's voice. "No, no, no. This was not supposed to happen." I opened my eyes back in the church, gasping. Claire was staring at me. "You saw it." I breathed heavily. "I saved them." Claire's lips trembled. "And died." I looked at Lily. She was crying silently. The memory had affected her too. She whispered, "We had a daughter." I nodded slowly. Claire shouted, "And he died because of that daughter." I turned to Claire. "Do not blame my child for your crimes." Claire froze. I remembered more now. The accident in this timeline was not random either. I saw the black car in the rain. The same silver wolf emblem. Claire had said every road with Lily ended with my death. But every death had her shadow behind it. I stared at her. "You caused this one too." Claire shook her head quickly. "No. You sent Silver Wolf after Lily." Claire's face turned pale. I continued, "You wanted to scare her. You wanted her to lose the child. You wanted her to leave me." Lily covered her mouth. Daniel looked like he wanted to kill Claire. Claire stepped back. "I did not tell them to hit you." I laughed coldly. "You never do, right? You only arrange accidents. You only delay cars. You only scare people. Then when someone dies, you call it fate." Claire's tears fell. I was desperate. I said, "No, you were selfish." The church stopped shaking for a moment. Claire looked at me, as if those words had cut her deeper than any knife. Selfish. Yes. I stepped toward her. You erased my wife. You erased my daughter. You erased every life where I was happy because you were not the one beside me. Claire's lips trembled. I love you. I said word by word. Your love is only another name for possession. Claire suddenly slapped me. The sound was sharp. Lily cried out. Daniel rushed forward, but I raised my hand to stop him. Claire stared at me, breathing hard. Do not say that. I slowly turned my face back. Why? Because it is true. Claire clenched her fists. If Lily had never appeared, you would have loved me. I shook my head. No, Claire. If Lily had never appeared, I still would not have loved you. Her face drained of all color. That one sentence seemed to destroy something inside her. The church walls began cracking again. This time the cracks spread faster. The guests became blurry, like ink dissolving in water. Daniel looked around and shouted, Ethan, this place is falling apart. Lily held her stomach and looked at me. Ethan, what do we do? I looked at Claire's bleeding hand. This memory existed because of us. Because Claire and I remembered it. If we wanted to leave, maybe we needed to break the thing binding us here. Claire's blood. I stepped toward her. Claire noticed my gaze. Her expression changed. No. I lunged forward and grabbed her injured hand. She screamed and tried to pull away. I pressed her palm against the white flowers beside the aisle. Blood spread across the petals. The church shook violently. Claire screamed, Ethan, stop. If you break this memory, you will lose them again. My heart clenched. Lily. My daughter. This life. This happiness I had once had. If I destroyed this memory, would I ever see it again? Would I lose the only chance to hold this version of Lily? Lily seemed to understand. She stepped toward me with tears in her eyes. Ethan. I looked at her. She smiled sadly. If this is only a memory, then do not trap yourself here for me. My voice trembled. But you are real to me. Lily reached out and touched my face. Maybe because somewhere I was real. Her tears fell. Maybe because somewhere we really loved each other. My eyes burned. She continued softly, then find me in the real timeline. Protect me there. I could barely breathe. And our daughter. Lily placed my hand over her stomach. If she is meant to come back, then let her come back in a world Claire cannot erase. Those words shattered the last hesitation in my heart. Claire shouted, no. No, Ethan, do not listen to her. If you leave this timeline, you lose your family again. I looked at Claire. No. My voice became calm. I am not losing them. I am choosing to save them. Then I pressed Claire's bleeding palm harder against the flowers. The white flowers turned red. The church doors burst open. A white light rushed in from outside. The guests disappeared one by one. Daniel cursed and grabbed a pew. Lily's body began to fade. My heart twisted. I rushed to her and held her tightly. Lily hugged me back. Her voice was soft beside my ear. Ethan, wake up. I shook my head. Not yet. She smiled through tears. You always hated goodbyes. I closed my eyes. I love you. The words came out before I could stop them. Maybe they belong to this timeline, Ethan. Maybe they belong to me. Maybe there was no difference. Lily whispered, I know. Then she faded in my arms. The church disappeared. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing in the old theater. I was still holding Claire's wrist. The sirens outside were much closer now. Dust fell from the ceiling. Claire stared at me with a blank expression. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then she suddenly pulled her hand back and stumbled away. Her face was full of fear. "You broke it." I breathed heavily. The 119th timeline. Claire's eyes reddened. "You destroyed it." I said coldly, "You destroyed it a long time ago." She shook her head. "No, it was still there. As long as I remembered it, it was still there." I looked at her. That was not remembrance, that was a prison. Claire screamed it was all I had. At that moment, the theater doors burst open. Victor Cross's bodyguards rushed in first, followed by Daniel and Lily. Lily's face was pale, and when she saw me, she ran toward me immediately. "Ethan!" I caught her in my arms. For a second, I almost could not tell which Lily she was. The bride from the church. The student from Harrington. The mother of my child from the erased life. They all overlapped in front of me. Lily looked up at me. "You remembered more, didn't you?" I nodded. Her eyes filled with tears. "Me too." My heart stopped. "What did you remember?" Lily touched her stomach unconsciously. "A baby." Her voice trembled. "A little girl." My chest tightened painfully. Before I could speak, Claire laughed from the stage. Everyone looked at her. She stood under the single theater lamp, her face pale and twisted. "How touching." Daniel stepped forward angrily. "Claire, it is over. Police are outside. Silver Wolf was caught. Lily's mother is safe." Claire looked at him and smiled. "Daniel, you still think police matter." Victor Cross walked in behind them. "They matter enough when evidence exists." Claire looked at Victor and laughed. "Evidence?" Victor's expression darkened. Claire raised her injured hand. "You mean files, videos, witnesses?" Her smile became colder. "How many times do you think I have watched your family try to fight mine?" Daniel's face changed. Claire continued, "Victor Cross in timeline 73, you pushed too hard against the Whitmores. Your heart failed during a board meeting. Everyone called it stress." Victor's face remained calm, but his eyes sharpened. Claire then looked at Daniel. "And you, Daniel, you always think you are clever, but clever people die too." Daniel clenched his fists. Lily stepped forward. "Claire, enough." Claire's gaze instantly fell on her. The hatred in her eyes became almost physical. "Lily Morgan." She said Lily's name like it was a curse. Lily held my hand tightly. "Claire, you lost because you never loved Ethan. You only wanted to own the version of him that obeyed you." Claire's lips trembled. "Shut up." Lily continued, "If you truly loved him, you would have let him be happy." Claire screamed, "Shut up." The theater lights burst one by one. Only the stage lamp remained. The air twisted again. My expression changed. She was trying to reset. I rushed forward. Claire saw me coming and laughed. "Too late." She raised the blade again. But before she could cut herself deeper, Victor's bodyguard shot forward and kicked the blade from her hand. The blade flew across the stage. Claire froze. For the first time, she had been physically stopped before completing the reset. Daniel immediately rushed up and pinned her arms behind her back. Claire struggled violently. "Let go of me." Daniel gritted his teeth. "I have wanted to do this since the first car accident." Claire screamed and tried to bite him. Two bodyguards came forward and restrained her. I climbed onto the stage. Claire looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Ethan, tell them to let me go." I stared at her. "No." Her expression broke. "You promised you would never let anyone hurt me." I frowned. I never promised that. Claire smiled sadly. You did, timeline 12. You said that after I saved you from a fire. A memory flashed through my head. Smoke. A burning building. Claire pulling me out. Me coughing, holding her hand. I owe you my life. I closed my eyes briefly. When I opened them again, my gaze was cold. Maybe I said it once. Claire looked hopeful. But that life is gone. Her hope shattered. I continued, and even if you saved me once, it does not give you the right to destroy me forever. Claire stared at me. Then she suddenly laughed softly. Destroy you. Her voice became strange. Ethan, you really think I am the worst thing in your life? A chill went down my spine. Claire looked at Lily and smiled. You still do not understand why I reset so many times. I said coldly, because you cannot accept losing. Claire shook her head. At first, yes. Her eyes slowly moved back to me. But later, I found out something. The theater became silent. Claire whispered, there is another person who remembers. My heart stopped. Daniel frowned. What does that mean? Claire smiled. Do you think I was the only one moving pieces on the board? I stared at her. Who? Claire looked toward the back of the theater. Right then, slow applause sounded from the darkness. Everyone turned. A man walked out from behind the last row of seats. He was wearing a dark gray coat, and his hair was neatly combed back. His face looked familiar, but for a moment I could not remember where I had seen him. Then Lily's face changed. Professor Ellison. My blood froze. Professor Ellison. The professor whose seminar introduced me to Lily. The person who appeared in almost every timeline where Lily and I met. He smiled gently. Miss Morgan, Mr. Hayes, I am glad you finally made it this far. Victor's bodyguards immediately moved in front of us. Professor Ellison raised both hands calmly. No need to be nervous. If I wanted you dead, this timeline would have ended before you entered the theater. Claire struggled against Daniel's grip. You said you could fix this. Ellison looked at her with pity. No, Claire, I said I could help you observe it. You are the one who insisted on controlling it. I looked between them. What is going on? Ellison smiled. Mr. Hayes, you have been asking the wrong question. My voice was cold. Then what question should I ask? He walked closer, step by step. Not why Claire can reset time. He stopped under the broken theater lights. But why you are the center of every reset. The air seemed to freeze. Claire suddenly shouted, do not tell him. Ellison ignored her. He looked at me and said softly, because, Ethan, Claire is not the source of the loop. You are. My mind went blank. Lily's hand tightened around mine. Daniel stared at me. Victor narrowed his eyes. Claire began shaking her head again and again. No, no, stop. Ellison continued, Claire only made the first wish, but the timeline answered because of you. I could barely speak. What does that mean? Ellison smiled. It means you have died 237 times, Mr. Hayes. His eyes darkened. And every single time, the world chose to bring you back. The theater lights flickered. Outside, the sirens suddenly stopped. Not faded. Stopped. As if time itself had frozen. Ellison looked at me and said, now the real question is, who made the world care so much whether you live or die? Before anyone could react, Claire screamed. The stage floor cracked beneath her feet. A blinding white light burst out from under the theater. Ellison smiled. Ah, it seems the truth came too early again. I reached for Lily. But this time, Lily was pulled away from me by an invisible force. "Ethan!" I grabbed her hand. For 1 second, our fingers locked. Then the world split open between us. Claire's voice echoed through the collapsing theater. "Ethan, if you remember everything, you will hate all of us." The white light swallowed everything. When I opened my eyes again, I was 6 years old. I was standing in the rain. My clothes were muddy. My knees were bleeding. In front of me was a little girl holding my hand. She looked back at me and whispered, "Ethan, don't be afraid. I'll lead them away." My heart stopped. This was not a timeline with Claire. This was my childhood. The day I was supposed to die for the first time. And the little girl holding my hand was not Claire. It was Lily. When I opened my eyes, I was 6 years old again. Rain poured down from the dark sky. Cold mud covered my shoes. My knees were scraped and bleeding. My small hands were trembling so badly that I could barely hold on to the girl in front of me. She was also very young. Her hair was soaked by the rain, and there was a scratch on her cheek. Her dress was torn at the hem, and she looked just as scared as I was. But she still held my hand tightly. "Ethan, don't be afraid," she whispered. My whole body froze. This was not the old theater. This was not the church. This was not Harrington University. This was the night I had been kidnapped when I was a child. The night I had almost died. The night I had always believed Claire saved me. But now, looking at the little girl holding my hand, I finally understood. It was not Claire. It had never been Claire. It was Lily. The little girl turned around and looked at me. Her eyes were bright even in the rain. "Ethan, listen to me. They are close. You are hurt, so you can't run fast. I will lead them away. You hide under the bridge and don't come out no matter what you hear." My throat tightened. A sharp pain went through my head. Fragments of memory rushed into my mind. A locked warehouse. A dirty window. 2 men whispering outside the door. A little girl using a broken nail to loosen the rope around my wrist. Her small hands were bleeding, but she did not stop. Then we escaped together into the rain. I had forgotten so much. No, I had not forgotten. Someone had made me forget. I grabbed the little girl's hand harder. "No, don't go." She smiled at me. It was Lily's smile. Even as a child, she smiled like that. Messy, brave, and a little stubborn. "If I don't go, they will find both of us." I shook my head. "No, we run together." She looked behind us. In the distance, flashlights moved through the trees. Men's voices came through the rain. "They went this way. Find the boy first." My small body trembled instinctively. Even though I was now an adult inside this child's body, the fear from that night was still there. Deep in my bones. The little Lily pushed me toward the stone bridge. "Ethan, hide." I held her wrist. "Lily." She froze. Her eyes widened slightly. "How do you know my name?" I opened my mouth, but I could not answer. Because in the original childhood memory, I did not know her name. We had only escaped together. I had asked her name, but before she could answer, the kidnappers found us. Then she had run out to lead them away. After that, my family found me under the bridge. And the girl disappeared from my life. Years later, Claire appeared wearing a bracelet I had given the little girl that night. So I believed Claire was her. But now I knew the truth. Claire had stolen that place. Just like she had stolen everything else. I lowered my voice and said, "I remember you." Little Lily looked confused. But before she could ask more, a flashlight swept near us. There, the man's voice sounded very close. Little Lily's expression changed. She suddenly pulled her hand away from mine and pushed me hard under the bridge. Hide. Then she picked up a stone and threw it toward the opposite side of the woods. The sound attracted the men immediately. Over there. Little Lily looked at me one last time. Ethan live. Then she turned and ran into the rain. I rushed forward without thinking. Lily. But my small body was too weak. My injured knee gave out, and I fell into the mud. The flashlights chased after her. Her small figure disappeared between the trees. I wanted to get up. I wanted to follow her. But at that moment, another hand suddenly grabbed my shoulder from behind. A cold voice sounded beside my ear. You should not be here yet. My whole body stiffened. I slowly turned my head. Professor Ellison stood behind me. He looked exactly the same as he did at Harrington University. Not younger. Not older. He stood in the rain wearing his dark gray coat, clean and untouched, as if the storm could not reach him. I stared at him. You. Ellison smiled faintly. Mr. Hayes, you are remembering too quickly. I gritted my teeth. What did you do to me? He sighed. That is a very complicated question. I stood up with difficulty, my small fists clenched. Where is Lily? Ellison looked toward the woods. The girl who saved you. If history continues, she will be found by the police in 20 minutes. She will survive, but she will forget most of tonight. My heart sank. Why? Because that was the first condition. What condition? Ellison looked down at me. The world gave you a choice that night. I did not understand. He continued calmly, you were supposed to die here. The rain seemed to become colder. I stared at him. What? Ellison said, the kidnappers were not supposed to lose you. Lily Morgan was not supposed to free you. You were supposed to be found under this bridge by one of the men. He would panic and he would kill you. My body went cold. No. Yes. Ellison crouched in front of me. That was your first death. My breathing stopped. First death. Claire had said I died 237 times. Professor Ellison had said the world chose to bring me back. But I never knew there was a first death before all the timelines. Before Claire. Before Lily. Before everything. Ellison looked at me with strange pity. But the girl changed that ending. She saved you, and because she saved you, the world changed direction. I asked hoarsely, why would the world care whether I live or die? Ellison smiled. Because you were not supposed to be an ordinary person. Before I could ask what he meant, the rain suddenly stopped. Not gradually. It simply stopped in the air. Every raindrop froze around us like glass beads. The flashlights in the woods stopped moving. The voices disappeared. Even the wind was gone. Only Ellison and I remained moving. I looked around in horror. What did you do? Ellison stood. Not me. Then who? He looked above the bridge. I followed his gaze. There, standing on top of the bridge, was another person. A woman in a black dress. Claire. But not the Claire from Harrington. This Claire looked older. Her face was pale and her eyes were full of exhaustion. Blood stained one side of her dress, and one hand was pressed against her chest as if she had just been wounded. She looked down at me. No, she whispered. This is wrong. My heart tightened. Claire. She stared at my child body, then looked at Ellison. You brought him here. Ellison smiled. No, you did when you tried to reset again. Claire's face twisted. I was trying to fix the theater timeline. Ellison shook his head. You cut too deep this time. You opened the root. Claire's eyes flashed with fear. Root. Ellison gestured toward me. His first death. Claire slowly looked at me. For the first time, there was no obsession in her eyes. Only fear. Ethan, don't listen to him. I said coldly, why? Because he is lying. Claire opened her mouth. But she did not speak. Ellison smiled. Miss Whitmore, you have lied to him for 237 timelines. Surely you do not expect him to trust you now. Claire shouted, shut up. The frozen raindrops trembled. Ellison looked amused. You are still relying on anger. That is why you always fail. Claire's face became colder. At least I tried to save him. Ellison's smile faded slightly. No, you tried to own him. Those words made Claire tremble. I looked at them. What is the root? What happened that night? Ellison looked at Claire. Should you tell him or should I? Claire clenched her fists. He doesn't need to know. I shouted, I do. The sound of my child's voice was small, but the anger inside it was not. Claire's eyes reddened. Ethan, if you know everything, you will not be able to go back. I said, I would rather know the truth than live in your lie. Claire's face turned pale. Ellison nodded slightly, as if satisfied. Very well. He turned to me. That night when Lily led the kidnappers away, you were left under the bridge. In the original fate, you were found and killed. But before that happened, someone made a wish. My heart tightened. Lily. Ellison shook his head. No, you. I froze. Me. You were 6 years old, terrified, injured, and alone. You thought Lily would die because of you, so you prayed. I remembered. The mud. The cold. The sound of men shouting in the distance. My small hands clasped together. Please. Please let her live. Please let me be the one who dies instead. My breathing became unsteady. Ellison's voice grew softer. That was the first exchange, your life for hers. Claire's expression became painful. I looked at Ellison. But I survived. Yes. Why? Because someone else interfered. He looked toward the road beyond the bridge. The frozen rain began moving in one small area. A car appeared through the darkness. Headlights cut through the trees. A young woman stepped out of the car, holding an umbrella. I recognized her immediately. My mother. But she looked much younger than I remembered. Her face was full of panic. Ethan. She ran toward the bridge. Behind her came my father and several police officers. They found me before the kidnappers returned. So my wish did not happen. Ellison said calmly, it did happen, just not in the way you understood. I looked at him. What does that mean? Your death was delayed. The words struck me like thunder. Ellison continued, from that moment on, your life became borrowed time. The world had accepted your exchange, but your parents' arrival interrupted the collection. So fate kept trying to collect later. My mind became blank. The bridge accident. The theater fall. The car crash in the 119th timeline. All those deaths. Were they not accidents? Were they not just Claire's doing? Ellison looked at me as if he could hear my thoughts. Claire caused many of the circumstances, yes, but the pull toward death was always there. She did not create the debt. She only exploited it. Claire shouted, I tried to stop it. Ellison turned to her. You tried to stop it by killing everyone around him. Claire's lips trembled. They were the reason he died. No, I said coldly. She looked at me. My voice shook, but I forced myself to continue. You were the reason I died so many times. Claire's tears fell silently. Ethan, if I had not reset, you would have stayed dead. I asked, then why not tell me the truth? Because you would choose Lily again. Her answer came too quickly. Too honestly. The silence after it was colder than the rain. I stared at her. So it was never about saving me. Claire shook her head desperately. No, it was. At first it was. At first. She closed her eyes. The first few timelines, I only wanted you alive. I tried to keep you away from danger. I tried to stop the bridge accident. I tried to prevent the theater fall. I tried to keep you from the road where the car would hit you. Her voice trembled. But every time I saved you from one death, another came. Her eyes opened, full of madness and exhaustion. Then I realized the common factor was Lily. My fists clenched. No. Yes, Claire said. Every time you loved her, you became willing to die for her. Every time she was in danger, you ran toward death without hesitation. I said through gritted teeth, because you kept putting her in danger. Claire froze. I continued, you said every road with Lily ended with my death, but you were the one placing traps on every road. Claire's expression cracked. No. You wanted proof that Lily was dangerous, so you made her life dangerous. Claire screamed I had to test it. Her voice echoed under the frozen bridge. I stared at her in horror. Test it. She realized what she had said. Her lips trembled. Ethan, I stepped back. In how many timelines did you put Lily in danger just to see whether I would save her? Claire did not answer. I asked again how many. She lowered her head. I don't remember. I laughed. It was not a laugh of amusement. It was disbelief. You don't remember. Claire cried there were too many. My heart went completely cold. Ellison sighed. That is the problem with loops. Morality erodes when consequences can be erased. I turned to him. And you, what were you doing all this time? Ellison smiled faintly. Observing. I said, you expect me to believe you only watched. He looked at me calmly. I guided certain events. Daniel would have called that a confession. Claire looked at him with hatred. You did more than guide. You taught me how to reset with blood. My eyes snapped to Ellison. He taught you. Claire laughed bitterly. Do you think I understood what was happening in the beginning? I was terrified. Every time time reset, I thought I was going insane. Then he appeared. She pointed at Ellison. He told me you were special. He told me your death was tied to the timeline. He told me that as long as I stayed close to you, I could reset the world whenever fate took you. Ellison's expression did not change. I told you the truth. Claire shouted, you told me enough truth to make me useful. Useful. That word sent a chill through me. I looked at Ellison. Useful for what? Ellison looked at the frozen raindrops around us. For finding the source. I frowned. The source of what? The power that answered your wish. Before I could speak, the sound of footsteps came from the road. Slow. Heavy. Impossible because time was still frozen. Ellison's face changed for the first time. Claire also turned pale. From the darkness beyond the bridge, a man walked toward us. He wore a black raincoat. His face was hidden beneath the hood. But in his hand, he held a small silver bracelet. The same bracelet Lily had tied around my wrist. The same one I had once given her as a child. My heart stopped. The hooded man stopped a few steps away. When he spoke, his voice was low and hoarse. "Professor Ellison, you should not have opened the root." Ellison's face became serious. "I did not open it, they did." Claire stepped back. "Who is that?" Ellison did not answer. The hooded man slowly raised his head. Under the hood was a face I did not recognize. He looked about 40, with tired eyes and a scar running along his jaw. But when I looked at him, my chest tightened for no reason. It felt like my body knew him, even though my mind did not. The man looked at me. "Ethan Hayes." I said coldly, "Who are you?" He did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward the woods where little Lily had run. Then he said, "I was the one who was supposed to kill you that night." My whole body froze. Claire covered her mouth. Ellison narrowed his eyes. The man continued. "The kidnappers panicked. They were told not to harm the girl, but the boy was different. I was ordered to clean up the mistake." My breathing became heavy. "You were one of them." He nodded. "Yes." My small fists trembled. "Then why are you here?" The man's eyes darkened. "Because you died." I stared at him. "What?" He looked at Ellison. "Your professor likes to leave out the parts that make his theories inconvenient." Ellison said coldly, "Marcus." So his name was Marcus. Marcus ignored him and looked at me. "Your parents found you under the bridge in the official memory. That is what everyone remembers because that is the version the world settled on. But before that version, there was another." Claire whispered, "Another timeline." Marcus nodded. "The first loop." I felt like the ground disappeared under my feet. Marcus said, "In the first loop, Lily led the men away. You hid under the bridge, I found you." His voice became lower. "You were shaking, bleeding, but you still asked me if the girl was safe." A sharp pain pierced my head. I saw it. A man in a black raincoat crouching in front of me. His hand around my throat. My small body unable to breathe. Yet I still asked, "Did she get away?" Marcus closed his eyes briefly. "I killed you." The frozen rain around us trembled. Claire whispered, "No." Marcus opened his eyes. Then the world reset. I asked hoarsely, "Why would it reset?" Marcus looked at the bracelet in his hand. "Because Lily came back." My heart stopped. He continued, "She escaped. She found the road. She could have lived. But she heard you scream, so she came back." Tears filled my eyes before I understood why. Marcus said she threw herself at me, a child against a grown man, completely useless. His voice trembled slightly. I pushed her away. She hit her head on a stone. I could not breathe. "No." Marcus looked at me. "You died first, she died second." The world seemed to go silent. Even Claire was frozen in place, tears falling down her face. Marcus continued, "And before she died, she held your hand and made a wish." My lips trembled. "What wish?" Marcus said, "She wished that you would live." The frozen raindrops shattered. All at once the memory hit me. Not a fragment. Not a dream. The whole truth. I was lying in the mud, unable to breathe. Little Lily crawled toward me, blood on her forehead. She grabbed my hand. Her voice was weak. "Ethan, wake up." I could not. She cried and pressed the bracelet into my palm. "Please. Please let him live. Take me instead." Then everything turned white. When time reset, my parents arrived earlier. They found me before Marcus did. Lily survived too, but the price had already been paid. Our two wishes collided. My life for hers. Her life for mine. The world could not decide who should die. So it kept trying, again and again. In every timeline, death circled us. If Lily was in danger, I died for her. If I was in danger, she died for me. And Claire, who came later, had found the loop and twisted it into a cage. I fell to my knees. My child body shook violently. Lily. Claire suddenly laughed. The sound was broken. So it was her. She looked at me with tears and hatred mixed together. It was always her. I lifted my head and looked at Claire. Do not say her name. Claire's expression twisted. All this time, I thought she was the reason fate kept taking you, but she was the reason you came back. I said coldly, and you tried to erase her. Claire shook her head. No, I tried to save you from the debt. Marcus said, you fed the debt. Claire turned toward him. Shut up. Marcus looked at her coldly. Every time you harmed the girl, Ethan chose death. Every time you trapped Ethan, the girl chose to break the cage. You did not weaken the bond. You strengthened it. Claire's face became white. Ellison suddenly spoke. Enough. His voice was colder than before. We are wasting time. Marcus looked at him. You still want the source? Ellison said, of course. I slowly stood up. My body was still small, but inside my chest, something had changed. Before, I was only running from Claire. Now I understood. This was bigger than Claire. Bigger than a jealous woman resetting time. There was a debt between Lily and me. A debt created by two children who loved life enough to trade it for each other. And Ellison wanted to use that. I looked at him. You arranged for me and Lily to meet at Harrington. Ellison smiled faintly. I created circumstances. You wanted the loop to activate. Yes. Why? Because a power that can rewrite death should not be wasted on romance. Claire laughed bitterly. You hear that, Ethan? He never cared whether you lived or died. He only wanted to study you. Ellison looked at her. And you never cared whether he lived freely. You only wanted him beside you. Let us not pretend either of us is innocent. Claire's face turned ugly. I looked at Marcus. Why are you telling me this? Marcus held up the bracelet. Because I have remembered the first loop for 30 years. His voice became heavy. Every reset changed everyone else. But because I killed you at the root, a part of me stayed outside the correction. I have lived with that child's face every day. He looked at me. I cannot undo what I did, but I can stop them from using you. Ellison smiled coldly. How noble, rather late, Marcus. Marcus ignored him. Ethan, listen carefully. The loop does not belong to Claire. It does not belong to Ellison. It belongs to the promise between you and Lily. If you want to break it, you cannot kill Claire. You cannot run from death. You must end the exchange. I asked how. Marcus looked toward the woods. You and Lily must both choose to live. I froze. Both? Yes, no more taking each other's place. No more dying for each other. No more exchanging life for life. You must both reject the debt at the same time. I thought of Lily in the real timeline. The Lily who tied the bracelet around my wrist. The Lily who remembered our daughter. The Lily who was pulled away from me when the world split open. How could I reach her? As if hearing my thoughts, Marcus said, she is here too. My heart stopped. Where? Marcus looked toward the woods. Where she was always running. I immediately turned and ran. Claire shouted behind me. Ethan, wait. I ignored her. The frozen rain began moving around me as I ran. The world shook. The memory did not want me to leave the bridge. But I had to find Lily. I ran through the woods. Branches scratched my face. Mud splashed against my legs. My child body was weak, but I did not stop. In the distance, I heard a little girl crying. "Ethan!" I followed the voice. Finally, I reached a clearing. There, two versions of Lily stood facing each other. One was the little girl from my childhood. The other was the adult Lily from Harrington. Adult Lily was kneeling in the mud, holding the little girl's hands. Both of them were crying. When adult Lily saw me, her eyes widened. "Ethan!" I ran toward her. The moment I reached her, my body changed. I was no longer 6 years old. I was myself again. Lily threw herself into my arms. I held her tightly. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, "I remember." My throat tightened. "Everything." She nodded against my chest. "The kidnapping, the first death, the wedding, our daughter, the accidents, all of it." I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry." Lily pulled back and looked at me angrily through tears. "Don't you dare apologize for dying when I was the one who wished you back." I almost laughed, but my eyes burned. Little Lily looked up at us. "Are you really me?" Adult Lily crouched and gently wiped mud from the child's face. "Yes." Little Lily looked at me. "Then are you really Ethan?" I nodded. She smiled faintly. "You got tall." My heart ached. Adult Lily held the little girl's hand. "She already told me what happened." I said softly, "Marcus told me too." Lily's expression changed. "The man who killed us." I nodded. She lowered her eyes. "I thought I hated him when I remembered." "And now?" Lily looked toward the bridge. "Now I think he is only one more person trapped by that night." At that moment, the woods behind us split open with white light. Claire walked into the clearing. Her eyes were fixed on little Lily. "So this is where it started." I immediately stepped in front of them. "Claire, don't come closer." She looked at me and smiled sadly. "Even now, you protect her first." Lily stood beside me. "Because I am the one you keep trying to hurt." Claire's eyes reddened. "You were supposed to disappear." Little Lily hid behind adult Lily. Claire looked at the child and whispered, "If you had not come back for him that night, none of this would have happened." Adult Lily's face turned cold. "If I had not come back, Ethan would have died alone." Claire shouted, "And because you came back, he has died hundreds of times." Lily's hands trembled. I held her hand tightly. "No," I said. "He died hundreds of times because people like you and Ellison kept using our debt." Claire looked at me. "Ethan, I can still save you." I shook my head. "No, Claire, you cannot." Her expression became desperate. "Then what? You will break the loop with her. You will both choose to live. Do you think fate will allow that?" Lily said quietly, "Fate did not start this." Claire looked at her. Lily continued, "Two scared children did, so two adults can end it." A strange wind moved through the clearing. The frozen rain began falling again. The world was waking up. Claire's face changed. "No." From behind her, Ellison's voice sounded. "Interesting." He walked into the clearing with Marcus behind him. Marcus looked injured. Blood ran from the corner of his mouth, but he was still standing. Ellison looked at Lily and me. "So you both remember now." I said coldly, "Stay away from us." Ellison smiled. "I am afraid I cannot. This is the closest I have ever been to the origin point. If you break the loop here, the energy released could answer questions humanity has asked for centuries." Daniel would have said something sarcastic. But Daniel was not here. Only Lily and I stood between a mad woman, a ruthless professor, and the first death that had chained our lives together. Ellison lifted his hand. The frozen rain gathered around him like tiny shards of glass. Claire stared at him. "What are you doing?" Ellison said calmly, taking control. Claire's expression changed. "You said you were helping me." "I was. For as long as you were useful." Claire's face twisted. "You used me." Ellison looked at her without pity. "You were very easy to use." For a moment, Claire looked completely broken. Then her eyes filled with hatred. She rushed toward him. Ellison waved his hand. The raindrops shot forward like needles. Claire screamed and fell to the ground. I moved instinctively, but Lily grabbed my arm. "Don't." Claire lay in the mud, blood staining her white coat. She looked at me, eyes full of disbelief. "Ethan." I did not move. Claire finally seemed to understand. This time I would not save her first. Ellison walked past her and looked at us. "Now, Mr. Hayes, Miss Morgan, let us begin." The ground under our feet started cracking. White light rose from the cracks. Little Lily began to fade. Adult Lily grabbed her hand. "No." Marcus shouted. "If the child disappears before the exchange is ended, the root will collapse." I looked at him. "What do we do?" Marcus shouted, "Say it, both of you, reject the exchange." Ellison smiled. "Too late." The white light wrapped around my legs like chains. Memories flooded my mind. Every death. Every reset. Every version of Lily reaching for me. Every version of me running toward her. I almost fell. Lily held my hand. Her face was pale, but her eyes were firm. "Ethan." I looked at her. She smiled through tears. "This time, don't die for me." My throat tightened. "Only if you don't die for me." She nodded. Together, we turned toward the little versions of ourselves. Little Ethan stood under the bridge in my memory. Little Lily stood in the clearing, bleeding and scared. I finally understood. We had been children. We had thought love meant taking the other person's place in death. But love should not be a grave. I held Lily's hand tightly. I said, "I choose to live." Lily's voice trembled, but she said clearly, "I choose to live." The white light shook violently. Ellison's expression changed. Again Marcus shouted. I looked at Lily. This time our voices sounded together. "I will not trade my life for yours. And I will not accept your life in exchange for mine." The entire world cracked open. Little Lily smiled. Little Ethan stopped crying. The bracelet between them shattered into silver light. Claire screamed. Ellison shouted something, but his voice was swallowed by the storm. Lily held my hand as the world collapsed. For the first time, I did not feel death pulling me away from her. For the first time, I felt the opposite. A road opening. A road where both of us could live. Then everything went white. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on the floor of the old theater. Sirens wailed outside. Police officers were shouting. Daniel's voice was the loudest. "Ethan, Ethan, wake up." I coughed and opened my eyes. Daniel's face appeared above me. His eyes were red. "You absolute idiot. Do you know how many times I have had to watch you almost die?" I smiled weakly. "Good to see you too." Daniel let out a shaky breath. Beside him, Lily was lying unconscious. My heart stopped. "Lily." I tried to get up, but my body had no strength. Daniel quickly said, "She is alive. She is breathing." Victor's people called the paramedics. Relief washed over me. Then I remembered. Claire, Ellison, Marcus. I turned my head. Claire was lying near the stage, unconscious, her white coat stained with blood. Professor Ellison was gone. So was Marcus. My expression changed. Where is Ellison? Daniel frowned. Who? My body froze. Professor Ellison. Daniel looked confused. Ethan, there is no Professor Ellison at Harrington. My blood turned cold. What? Daniel shook his head. Our seminar professor is Professor Wallace, always has been. At that moment Lily stirred. I crawled toward her and held her hand. Lily slowly opened her eyes. When she saw me, tears instantly filled her eyes. Ethan, I asked quickly, do you remember Ellison? She nodded weakly. Yes. Daniel's face turned pale. Okay, I officially hate when only some people remember things. Before I could speak, my phone buzzed. I took it out with trembling hands. There was a message from an unknown number. Mr. Hayes, congratulations on breaking the first chain. But do not mistake this for freedom. The loop is broken. The debt is not. Below the message was a photo. It showed Professor Ellison standing outside Harrington University's clock tower. Beside him stood Marcus, and between them was a little girl about 5 years old. She had Lily's smile. In my eyes, my blood froze. Lily saw the photo and covered her mouth. Her whole body trembled. Daniel looked at the screen and whispered, "No way." Another message came. If you want your daughter back, come find the timeline she was hidden in. I stared at the little girl in the photo. My daughter. The child Claire had erased. The child I thought existed only in memory. She was alive somewhere. And Ellison had her. My hand tightened around the phone. Lily gripped my wrist. Ethan. I looked at her. This time, there was no hesitation in her eyes. No sacrifice. No fear of choosing life. Only determination. She said softly, "We are going to get our daughter back." I nodded. Yes. Behind us, Claire suddenly opened her eyes. Her voice was weak but clear. You can't. We turned toward her. Claire looked at the photo on my phone. Her face was full of terror. Ellison did not hide her in a timeline. My heart sank. Then where is she? Claire swallowed hard. Her voice trembled. He hid her in the place between resets. The place where all dead timelines go. Daniel whispered, "And what does that mean?" Claire looked at me. For the first time, she looked truly afraid. It means if you go after her, Ethan, you may have to walk through every life you ever lost. And not all of them will let you leave. She reset time 237 times, just to make me love her. Claire's words made the entire theater fall silent. If you go after her, Ethan, you may have to walk through every life you ever lost. And not all of them will let you leave. For a long time, no one spoke. The police lights outside flashed red and blue through the broken theater doors. Dust floated in the air. The old stage was cracked open, and the smell of rain and blood mixed together until I could barely breathe. I stared at the photo on my phone. A little girl stood between Professor Ellison and Marcus. She was about 5 years old. Her hair was soft and dark. Her eyes looked exactly like mine, but when she smiled, she looked like Lily. My daughter. The daughter I had lost in a timeline I barely remembered. The daughter Claire said had been erased. But she was not erased. She was alive. Somewhere. Lily's hand gripped my wrist so tightly her fingers were cold. Ethan, she whispered, that is her. I nodded slowly. I know. My voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. Daniel leaned over and looked at the photo again. Okay, I have accepted time loops, memory ghosts, murderous rich girls, and non-existent professors. But a child hidden between dead timelines, that is where I need someone to explain things like I am 5. Claire coughed weakly. Her face was pale, and blood stained the corner of her mouth. 2 police officers were standing near her, but none of them seemed to understand what was happening. Claire looked at Daniel and said hoarsely, "The place between resets is not a place humans are supposed to enter." Daniel frowned. That did not explain anything. Claire ignored him and looked at me. Every time I reset the world, the old timeline did not completely disappear. It collapsed. Most of it turned into fragments, memories, places, people, regrets. But the stronger the emotion, the longer the fragments survived. I asked coldly, "And my daughter?" Claire's eyes trembled. "She was born from the strongest timeline you and Lily ever had." Lily's breathing stopped. Claire continued, "The 119th timeline was different. You loved her too much. Lily loved you too much. And your daughter was born from the exchange between your lives. When I reset that timeline, she should have disappeared like everyone else." Claire swallowed. "But she didn't." My hand tightened around the phone. "Why?" Claire looked at me with bitter eyes. "Because you and Lily both wanted her to live." My chest hurt. Beside me, Lily covered her mouth, tears falling silently. Claire said, "When the reset happened, she was pulled out of the timeline. I thought she was gone forever. But later, when I started seeing the place between resets, I saw traces of her." I took a step forward. "You knew she existed?" Claire lowered her eyes. "Yes." Lily suddenly walked toward her. Daniel quickly reached out to stop her, but Lily pushed his hand away. She stood in front of Claire and looked down at her. "You knew my daughter was alive somewhere, and you never told us." Claire's lips trembled. "You did not remember her." Lily slapped her. The sound was sharp. Everyone froze. Claire slowly turned her face back. Lily's eyes were red. "You erased my child, hid the truth, and now you dare say I did not remember her." Claire did not answer. For once she had no excuse. I walked to Lily's side and held her trembling hand. Claire looked at our joined hands, and pain flashed across her face. "Even now," she whispered, "you stand together." I said coldly, "Get used to it." Daniel muttered finally, "That was satisfying." Victor Cross entered from outside the theater. His expression was grim. "The police are confused, the Silver Wolf men are being detained, and half the evidence now points to people who apparently do not exist. So if anyone wants to tell me what the next disaster is, now would be a good time." Daniel pointed at my phone. "We have to rescue Ethan and Lily's daughter from the graveyard of dead timelines." Victor stared at him. "Daniel, when this is over, you are going to therapy." Daniel nodded seriously. "I am going to need a whole medical team." Victor looked at me. "You believe this child is real?" I showed him the photo. Victor's expression changed slightly. He had seen many things that night, but even he could not stay calm after seeing that little girl. Lily said firmly, "She is real." Victor looked at Claire. "And you know how to reach this place?" Claire was silent. I said, "Claire." She looked up at me. "If you know how to reach her, tell me." Claire smiled faintly. "And if I tell you, will you forgive me?" Lily's face went cold. Daniel cursed under his breath. I looked at Claire for a long time. Then I said no. Claire's smile froze. I continued, "I will never forgive you for what you did, Not for the resets, not for Daniel, not for Lily. Not for our daughter. Claire's eyes reddened. Then why should I help you? I bent down slightly and looked into her eyes. Because if there is even a single part of you that truly loved me, then help me save my child. Claire's lips trembled. For a moment, she looked like she was about to cry. Then she laughed softly. You really are cruel, Ethan. I said I learned from you. Claire lowered her head. After a long silence, she whispered, fine. Lily stiffened. Claire continued, I can open the path, but I cannot go alone and I cannot keep it open for long. I asked, what do you need? Claire slowly raised her injured hand. Blood. Daniel groaned. Of course, why is it always blood with you people? Claire looked at him coldly. Because resets are exchanges, something has to pay the price. Lily asked whose blood. Claire looked at me. Mine, Ethan S. and Lily's. I immediately said no. Lily looked at me. Ethan. I turned to her. No, I'm not letting you bleed for this. Lily laughed bitterly. Our daughter is trapped in a dead timeline, and you think I am going to stand here politely while you protect me. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Lily stepped closer. We broke the first chain because we both chose to live. That means we also choose together now. Her eyes were full of tears, but her voice was steady. She is not only your daughter. My heart softened painfully. I nodded. Okay. Claire watched us silently. Her expression was strange. Jealousy, grief, and something like acceptance were all mixed together. Victor said, if you three cut your hands open in front of police officers, I assume this becomes harder to explain. Daniel raised his hand. I vote we move somewhere less full of law enforcement and dust. Claire shook her head. No, it has to be here. Why? I asked. She looked at the broken stage. Because this is where Ethan remembered the 119th timeline. This theater is already cracked open. If we leave, we may not find another doorway before Ellison moves the child. Lily immediately said, then we do it here. Victor looked unhappy, but he did not stop us. Claire struggled to stand. The police officer beside her tried to hold her down, but Victor walked over and said something quietly. The officer looked confused, but he backed away. Daniel helped Claire stand, though his face showed he hated every second of it. Claire glanced at him. Careful, people may think you are worried about me. Daniel smiled coldly. I am worried you will die before fixing the mess you made. Claire looked away. We walked onto the cracked stage. The single theater lamp above us flickered. Claire stood at the center. Lily stood on my left. I stood on her right. Claire looked at our hands. The bracelet Lily had tied around my wrist was still there. Claire stared at it for a long time. In timeline 12, I gave you a red scarf, she whispered. You wore it once, then you lost it. I said nothing. She laughed softly. But Lily gives you one bracelet, and somehow it survives death. Lily said coldly, maybe because Ethan wanted to keep it. Claire flinched. Then she raised her hand. We need to make the same cut. Daniel looked disgusted. This sounds like a cult. Victor said Daniel. Daniel shut his mouth. Claire used a small shard of broken glass from the stage floor. She cut her palm first. Then I cut mine. Lily reached for the glass. My hand tightened instinctively. She looked at me. Ethan. I forced myself to let go. She made a shallow cut across her palm. Blood welled up. My heart twisted. Lily took my hand with her bleeding one. Claire took my other hand. The moment her fingers touched mine, A cold feeling crawled up my arm. I wanted to pull away. Claire noticed. Her smile turned bitter. Still disgusted by me. I said calmly, yes. Her hand trembled, but she did not let go. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Think of the child." Lily's grip tightened. I closed my eyes. At first, all I saw was darkness. Then I remembered. A small living room. A crib by the window. A baby girl grabbing my finger. Lily laughing softly beside me. Daniel sitting on the sofa, pretending he was not crying. The baby opened her eyes. My eyes. Then the memory changed. She was older. Maybe 3. Running through a garden. Lily chasing after her. Me holding a small kite. "Daddy, look." My heart almost broke. I had forgotten her voice. But now I heard it. Soft. Bright. Real. Lily gasped beside me. She remembered too. Claire began trembling. The stage beneath us cracked wider. White light rose from the floor. Daniel shouted, "Ethan." I opened my eyes. The theater was disappearing. The seats became shadows. The police lights outside froze. Victor and Daniel blurred at the edges like a painting soaked in water. Claire's voice sounded strained. "Do not let go." Lily said through gritted teeth, "I won't." The white light swallowed us. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in the middle of Harrington University. But it was wrong. The sky was gray. The clock tower was broken in half. No wind blew. No students walked across campus. Everything was silent. The ground was covered in dead leaves, but the leaves did not move. Lily stood beside me. Claire stood on my other side, still holding my hand. The moment the world stabilized, I pulled my hand away from Claire. She looked at her empty hand and smiled sadly. "This is the place between resets?" Lily asked. Claire nodded. "One part of it." Daniel's voice suddenly sounded behind us. "This is awful." I spun around. Daniel stood there, looking extremely offended. Beside him stood Victor Cross. Victor looked at the gray sky with a dark expression. "Daniel," he said slowly, "did you follow them?" Daniel looked at him. "I thought you followed me." Victor closed his eyes. For one moment, even Claire looked shocked. Daniel pointed at the cracked ground under his feet. "Okay, before anyone blames me, the stage exploded with magic light. I grabbed Ethan's jacket. Dad grabbed me. This is technically Ethan's fault." I stared at him. "Daniel, you idiot." He put a hand to his chest. "That is hurtful. I came to support you in the ghost timeline landfill." Claire's face became ugly. "You should not be here." Victor said calmly, "Yet we are. So tell us how to survive." Claire looked at the empty campus. "Stay close. Do not follow voices. Do not enter doors unless I say so. And most importantly, if you see someone you lost, do not touch them." Lily's face changed. "Why?" Claire's voice became low. "Because some memories want bodies." As soon as she finished speaking, the clock tower bell rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. But the bell was broken. There should have been no sound. A cold voice echoed through the campus. "Ethan." My body froze. I knew that voice. I slowly turned. At the foot of the clock tower stood another me. He looked older. Maybe 32. His suit was torn and blood stained his shirt. His eyes were empty. Lily covered her mouth. Claire whispered, "Do not go near him." The older Ethan looked at me and smiled. You survived again. My throat tightened. Who are you? Claire answered softly, one of your deaths. The older Ethan walked toward us. Every step he took made the ground crack beneath him. He looked at Lily. You should not have come. Lily's hand tightened around mine. The older Ethan continued, every time she comes, we die. I said coldly, no. Every time someone tries to separate us, we die. He smiled. You still don't understand. Suddenly, more figures appeared around the courtyard. Another Ethan. And another. And another. Some wore hospital gowns. Some were soaked with rain. Some had blood on their hands. Some looked young. Some looked older. All of them stared at me. Daniel whispered, Ethan, I say this with love. Your dead selves are extremely creepy. Victor stepped in front of Daniel. Lily's face was pale, but she did not let go of my hand. Claire looked nervous. This is impossible. There should not be this many gathered at the entrance. One of the dead Ethans laughed. Because the chain broke. Another said, because he came back. Another whispered, because the child is still alive. My heart tightened. Where is she? I asked. The dead versions of me became silent. Then the older Ethan pointed toward the library, where all forgotten things are kept. The path to the library appeared through the gray mist. Claire immediately said, no, it is a trap. I looked at her. Do you know another way? She did not answer. Lily started walking. Then we go. I followed her. Daniel muttered, of course we go into the obviously haunted library. Victor said, stay behind me. Daniel looked at him. Dad, with all due respect, I do not think money works here. Victor glanced at him. Then stay behind me quietly. We walked past the dead versions of me. As I passed, one of them grabbed my sleeve. Claire had warned us not to touch them. The moment his fingers closed on my arm, pain shot through my body. I saw his death. A balcony. Claire in a red dress. Lily screaming below. Me falling backward through the air. Then darkness. I ripped my arm away. Lily caught me. Ethan. I breathed heavily. Claire looked at the dead Ethan with fear. He should not have been able to touch you. The dead Ethan smiled. Rules are changing. We ran. Behind us, the dead versions began following. Slowly at first. Then faster. Daniel shouted, I hate this place. We rushed into the library. The doors slammed shut behind us. Inside, shelves stretched endlessly into the darkness. Books floated in the air. Pages turned by themselves. Each book had a date written on its spine. Timeline 1. Timeline 12. Timeline 46. Timeline 82. Timeline 119. Timeline 237. Lily walked toward timeline 119, as if pulled by a string. I grabbed her hand. Careful. She whispered, I hear her. My heart stopped. Who? Lily's eyes filled with tears. Our daughter. A child's laugh echoed between the shelves. Daddy. I turned sharply. The voice came from deeper, inside the library. Lily ran before I could stop her. Lily. I chased after her. Daniel and Victor followed. Claire shouted, wait. The shelves shifted. The path behind us disappeared. Suddenly, Lily was gone. My heart stopped. Lily. Her voice echoed from far away. Ethan. I tried to run toward it, but Claire grabbed my arm. Do not follow the voice directly. I shoved her off. That is Lily. Claire shouted, "It may not be." Daniel said urgently, "Then how do we find her?" Claire looked at the books. "Find the right timeline. The real Lily will be where your daughter's memory is strongest." I stared at the shelves. Timeline 119. I pulled the book from the shelf. The moment I opened it, white light burst out. The library disappeared. I stood in a nursery. Moonlight shone through the window. A little girl slept in a small bed. Lily sat beside her, humming softly. My chest tightened. This was our home. The 119th timeline. Lily turned her head and saw me. "Ethan." But this was not my Lily. This was the Lily from the memory. She smiled. "You're home late." My throat closed. I looked at the little girl in the bed. "What is her name?" Lily frowned. "Ethan, that is not funny." "Please." She looked confused, then said softly, "Her name is Emma." Emma. The name struck something deep inside me. Emma Hayes. My daughter. I walked toward the bed slowly. Emma stirred and opened her eyes. When she saw me, she smiled sleepily. "Daddy." Tears blurred my vision. I reached out. But before I could touch her, Claire's voice screamed in my head. "Do not touch memories." I froze. Emma blinked. "Daddy." My hand trembled in the air. I wanted to hold her. I wanted to pick her up and never let go. But if this was only a memory, touching her might trap me here. The room flickered. Memory Lily stood. "Ethan, what is wrong?" I stepped back painfully. "I am sorry." Emma's face crumpled. "Daddy, don't go." My heart broke. But then behind her small voice, I heard another sound. A real voice. Faint. Far away. "Daddy, help me." This was not the memory Emma. The real Emma was calling from somewhere beyond it. I closed my eyes. "I am coming." The nursery shattered. I opened my eyes back in the library. Daniel was shaking my shoulder. "Ethan." I gasped. "Where is Lily?" Victor pointed down a long corridor between shelves. "We heard her that way." Claire looked pale. "You opened 119. I nodded. "Her name is Emma." Claire's expression changed. For a second, she looked devastated. "You remembered her name." I looked at her. "Did you know?" Claire lowered her eyes. "Yes." Lily's scream suddenly echoed through the library. "Ethan." I ran. This time, Claire did not stop me. We reached a circular room at the center of the library. Lily was there. She stood frozen in front of a glass wall. On the other side of the glass was Emma. The real Emma. She was wearing a small yellow dress. Her hand was pressed against the glass. "Mommy." Lily was crying so hard she could not speak. Emma looked at me. "Daddy." My knees almost gave out. I walked to the glass and placed my hand against it. Emma placed her little hand opposite mine. She was real. Not a memory. Not a ghost. Real. "Daddy," she whispered, "why did you take so long?" I could not breathe. "I am sorry." Lily pressed both hands against the glass. "Emma, baby, we are here. We are going to get you out." Emma nodded, but her eyes were scared. "The professor said you would come." My expression turned cold. "Where is he?" A voice answered from behind us. "Here." We turned. Professor Ellison stood at the entrance to the circular room. Marcus stood beside him, expression unreadable. Ellison smiled. Touching reunion, very moving. Lily's eyes filled with hatred. Let her out. Ellison walked forward calmly. I will, under one condition. I said coldly, I am done with conditions. Ellison smiled. Unfortunately, the universe is not. He pointed at the glass. Your daughter exists outside the corrected timeline. If she leaves this place, reality will demand payment. Claire whispered no. Ellison looked at her. You know it is true. I asked what payment. Ellison's eyes settled on me. A life. Lily immediately said no. Ellison ignored her. The child can return only if someone takes her place in the dead timelines. Daniel cursed. Of course the haunted library wants a trade. Victor's voice was cold. There must be another way. Ellison said there is always another way. It is usually worse. I stared at Emma through the glass. She did not understand everything, but she understood enough to be afraid. She pressed her hand harder against mine. Daddy, I want to go home. My heart tore open. I looked at Lily. She looked back at me. I knew what she was thinking. She knew what I was thinking. Then we both said at the same time no. Claire looked at us. Lily held my hand tightly. We are not doing this again, she said. I nodded. No more exchanges. Ellison's smile faded slightly. You cannot simply reject rules because they hurt. I looked at him. Watch us. Claire suddenly stepped forward. There is another way. Everyone looked at her. Ellison frowned. Claire, do not. Claire smiled faintly. Now you are nervous. My heart tightened. What are you talking about? Claire looked at Emma through the glass. For once, there was no hatred in her eyes. Only tiredness. The place between resets needs a life, she said, but not necessarily Ethan's or Lily's. I froze. Claire. She looked at me and smiled. Do not misunderstand. I am not doing this for forgiveness. Lily's face changed. Claire continued, I am doing this because I am tired. Her voice trembled. Tired of resetting, tired of losing, tired of watching you look at me like I am the worst thing that ever happened to you. Daniel said quietly, you kind of are. Victor gave him a look. Claire laughed softly. He is not wrong. She walked toward the glass. Ellison's expression became cold. Claire, if you do this, you will not reset again. There will be no next time. Claire looked at him. Good. For the first time, her voice was peaceful. I grabbed her arm. Don't. She looked surprised. Why stop me? Isn't this what you want? I said coldly, I do not want another exchange. Claire smiled sadly. This is not an exchange between you and Lily. This is mine. Her eyes reddened. I stole hundreds of lives from you. I stole Lily's child. I stole Daniel's safety. I stole my own humanity. She looked through the glass at Emma. Let me return one thing. Lily's lips trembled. Claire, if this is another trick, it is not. Claire placed her bleeding hand on the glass. Emma stepped back scared. Claire smiled gently. Do not be afraid. I was very bad to your parents, but I will not hurt you. Emma looked at me. Daddy. I swallowed hard. It's okay. Claire whispered something. The glass began to crack. Ellison's face darkened. Marcus suddenly stepped in front of him. Ellison looked at him. Move. Marcus said no. Ellison's eyes narrowed. You dare. Marcus looked at Emma. I killed 2 children once. I will not help you trap another. Ellison raised his hand. But Victor moved faster. He tackled Ellison from the side. Daniel shouted, "Dad!" The room exploded into chaos. Marcus grabbed Ellison. Victor fought to hold him down. Daniel ran to help. Claire pressed both hands to the glass. Blood spread across it like red vines. Lily and I pushed against the glass from our side. Emma pressed her small hands from the other side. The cracks widened. Claire screamed from pain. Ellison shouted, "If she leaves, this place collapses." Daniel yelled back, "Great, I hated it anyway." The glass shattered. Emma fell forward. Lily caught her. For 1 second, everything stopped. Emma was in Lily's arms. Real. Warm. Alive. Lily collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Emma wrapped her small arms around Lily's neck. "Mommy." I knelt beside them and pulled both of them into my arms. Emma touched my face. "Daddy, you're crying." I laughed and cried at the same time. "Yes." She frowned. "Grown-ups are weird." Lily let out a broken laugh. I held them tighter. For the first time across hundreds of stolen lives, my family was in my arms. Then the floor cracked beneath us. Claire stood on the other side of the broken glass. The darkness behind her wrapped around her legs. "Ethan," she said softly. I looked at her. She smiled faintly. This time, I got one thing right. The darkness pulled her backward. I reached out instinctively. "Claire." Her eyes widened slightly. Maybe she did not expect me to call her name. But I did not reach her. The shadows swallowed her. The last thing I saw was her smile. Not obsessive. Not jealous. Just tired. Then the library began to collapse. Marcus shouted, "Run." Daniel grabbed Victor. Lily held Emma. I held Lily's hand. We ran as the shelves fell around us. Books burst into white flames. Dead timelines screamed from every direction. I heard my own voices calling me. Stay. Die. Remember. Forget. But this time, I did not look back. Lily ran beside me. Emma was in her arms. Daniel and Victor followed. Marcus led the way. At the end of the corridor was a door made of white light. Ellison's voice screamed behind us. "You do not understand what you have done. Without the loop, fate will correct everything." Marcus shouted, "Ignore him." But Ellison laughed. "The debt is not gone. It has only changed hands." I turned back once. Ellison stood in the burning library, smiling through blood. Then the shelves collapsed between us. We jumped through the white door. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the stage of the old theater again. Rain poured through the broken roof. Police officers shouted. Paramedics rushed in. Daniel was beside me, coughing. Victor sat up slowly, looking furious in a way only rich fathers could. Marcus was gone. Ellison was gone. Claire was gone. I turned sharply. Lily. She was lying a few feet away. In her arms was Emma. My daughter opened her eyes and looked around. Then she frowned. "This place is dirty." For 1 second, no one moved. Then Daniel burst into hysterical laughter. Lily hugged Emma tightly and sobbed. I crawled toward them and wrapped my arms around both of them. Emma patted my head with her small hand. "Daddy, don't cry again." I laughed hoarsely. "I'll try." Victor stared at Emma, then at Daniel. "Daniel, explain." Daniel wiped his eyes. "Dad, this is Ethan's daughter from a deleted timeline." Victor closed his eyes. "Of course she is." A paramedic rushed over. The police tried to ask questions. No one had answers that would make sense. But none of that mattered. Emma was here. Lily was alive. Daniel was alive. For the first time, the day did not reset. 3 days later, we sat in Victor Cross's private residence. Emma slept on the sofa with a blanket tucked around her. Lily sat beside her, refusing to let go of her hand. Daniel sat across from us with a notebook. He had titled it, "Things I Refuse to Believe but Unfortunately Saw." Victor stood near the window, speaking quietly on the phone. The Whitmore family was in chaos. Silver Wolf Security had collapsed overnight. Claire Whitmore had been declared missing. Professor Ellison had no records at Harrington. No employment file. No birth certificate. No bank account. Nothing. It was as if he had never existed. But Emma existed. That was the only proof I needed. Lily looked at me. "Do you think Claire is really gone?" I was silent for a moment. Then I said, "I don't know." Daniel looked up. "Please say yes." I said, "I hope so." Emma stirred in her sleep and whispered, "Mommy." Lily immediately leaned down and touched her hair. I watched them, my chest aching with a happiness so fragile I was afraid to breathe near it. Then my phone buzzed. Everyone in the room froze. I took it out. Unknown number. One message. "You brought back what was lost. Now something lost will come looking for you." Below the message was a photo. It showed the old clock tower at Harrington. At the top of the tower stood a woman in white. Her back was turned. Her long black hair moved in the wind. Claire. But beside her stood Professor Ellison. And between them, carved into the stone wall, were 3 words. "Final timeline begins." Daniel slowly put down his notebook. "I hate this." Lily held Emma closer. I stared at the photo until my fingers tightened around the phone. For hundreds of lives, Claire had controlled the resets. Ellison had studied them. Fate had chased us. But now Emma was back. The loop was broken. And whatever came next would not be a reset. It would be war. I looked at Lily. She nodded. No more running. I looked at Emma sleeping peacefully between us. Then I said quietly, "This time, we protect our future." The message on my phone was only 4 words. Final timeline begins. But those 4 words made the whole room fall into silence. Daniel stared at the screen for a long time, then slowly leaned back in his chair. "I hate this." Victor Cross stood by the window, his face dark. Lily held Emma tighter, as if afraid that if she loosened her arms even a little, our daughter would disappear again. Emma was still sleeping. She had no idea that the world had just threatened to take her from us again. I stared at the photo. The old clock tower at Harrington University. Claire standing at the top in white. Professor Ellison standing beside her. And those 3 words carved into the stone wall. Final timeline begins. I clenched my phone so tightly, my knuckles turned white. Daniel looked at me. "Ethan, please tell me you have a plan." I looked at Emma. Then I looked at Lily. My voice was calm, but only because my anger had become colder than fear. "We go to Harrington." Victor immediately said no. Daniel nodded quickly. For once I agree with my father, which is terrifying, by the way. I looked at Victor. If Ellison is at the clock tower, then he wants us there. Victor's expression was cold. "Exactly, that is why you should not go." Lily said quietly, "If we do not go, he will come for Emma." The room became silent again. Victor looked at Emma sleeping on the sofa. For the first time since I had known him, his face showed hesitation. Emma stirred slightly and mumbled, "Mommy." Lily lowered her head and kissed her forehead. I walked over and crouched beside them. Emma's small fingers were wrapped around Lily's sleeve. She had only returned to us 3 days ago, but every time she slept, she held onto one of us like she was afraid of waking up alone. Maybe in the place between resets, she had been alone for too long. Thinking of that, my hatred for Ellison became even deeper. Daniel suddenly said, "What if we leave the city?" I looked at him. He continued, "Private plane, cross-family safe house, island, underground bunker, I don't care. Somewhere without haunted clock towers." Victor said, "I can arrange that." I shook my head. Ellison found Emma between dead timelines. Do you think distance matters to him? Daniel cursed softly. I hate when the insane option is also logical. Lily looked at me. Ethan, if this really is the final timeline, then maybe he cannot reset anymore either. I paused. That thought had also crossed my mind. Claire had reset so many times because she was connected to my deaths, but after Lily and I broke the first chain, the loop changed. Emma had returned. Claire had vanished into the dead timelines. Ellison had sent a threat, not a reset. That meant something was different. Maybe this time, he could not simply erase his failure. Maybe this was why he called it the final timeline. I said slowly, if Ellison could reset everything, he would have already done it. Daniel sat up. So he is bluffing. Victor's eyes narrowed. Or he is preparing something worse. Lily looked at Emma. Either way, we cannot let him choose the battlefield. I looked at her. You want to go? She met my eyes. I want to end this. Daniel rubbed his face. Of course, the couple with the resurrected timeline daughter wants to attack the non-existent professor at the cursed clock tower. Wonderful. Victor said, we do not attack blindly. He walked to the table and opened a leather folder. Before anyone could ask, he took out several documents. I had my people investigate everything connected to Harrington, the Whitmore family, Silver Wolf, and the name Ellison. Daniel blinked. Dad, it has been 3 days. Victor looked at him. I have more people than patience. Daniel muttered, that explains my childhood. Victor ignored him and placed a photo on the table. This man appeared in security footage near Harrington 8 years ago, 6 years ago, and again last week. I looked down. The photo was blurry, but the face was familiar. Professor Ellison. Victor continued, there is no record of him as a professor, no legal identity, but he appears around major accidents connected to Ethan Hayes. My chest tightened. What accidents? Victor placed 3 more photos on the table. One showed a bridge in heavy rain. One showed the old theater. One showed Harrington's clock tower. Lily's face turned pale. Victor said these locations all appeared in police records. Some records were sealed. Some were altered. Some should not exist. Daniel leaned forward. What does that mean? Victor looked at me. It means parts of other timelines are bleeding into this one. The room became colder. Lily whispered because Emma came back. Victor nodded. That is my assumption. Emma suddenly opened her eyes. Everyone went silent. She looked around sleepily, then sat up. Daddy. I immediately went to her. I'm here. She rubbed her eyes. The bad professor is calling again. My blood froze. Lily's face changed. What did you say? Emma pointed toward the window. He says the tower is awake. Daniel slowly stood up. Nope, absolutely not. I draw the line at creepy child prophecy. Victor moved to the window and looked outside. Nothing was there. But Emma kept staring. Her voice was small. He says if we don't come before midnight, Mommy will forget me. Lily's hand trembled. I felt as if someone had stabbed ice into my chest. I held Emma's shoulders gently. Emma, can you hear him now? She nodded. Sometimes. He talks when I close my eyes. He says I do not belong here. Her eyes filled with tears. Daddy, do I belong here? My heart almost broke. I pulled her into my arms. Yes, you belong with us. Lily sat beside us and hugged her too. No one is taking you away again. Emma buried her face against Lily's chest. Daniel looked away, his jaw tight. Victor's expression became completely cold. Midnight, he said, then we have less than 12 hours. I stood. Then we prepare. By evening, Harrington University had been quietly emptied. Victor did not explain how he managed it. Daniel said rich people could apparently evacuate campuses the way normal people ordered pizza. Victor only told him to be useful or silent. Daniel chose neither. We arrived at Harrington at 11:17 p.m. The campus was dark. The old brick building stood under the moonlight, and the trees moved in the wind. But the clock tower was different. The hands on the clock were spinning backward. Slowly, 1 minute at a time. Emma held Lily's hand on one side and mine on the other. Daniel walked behind us with a flashlight. Victor's private security surrounded the courtyard, but none of them came too close to the tower. They could feel it too. Something was wrong here. Daniel looked up at the clock. I would like to say, for the record, that backward clocks are never good. Victor said, noted. Lily looked at Emma. Do you hear him? Emma nodded. He is upstairs. I looked at the tower doors. They were open, just like the theater had been. Waiting for us. Victor gestured to his men. 2 guards stepped forward. But the moment they approached the doorway, the clock bell rang once. The guards froze. Then both of them stepped back at the same time, faces pale. Victor frowned. What happened? One guard swallowed. Sir, I saw my funeral. The other guard said nothing. His hands were shaking. Victor's face darkened. Daniel whispered, so only the main cast can enter. Great. I looked at Lily. Stay behind me. She immediately glared at me. Do not start. I sighed. Fine, stay beside me. Emma raised her small hand. Where do I stay? Lily and I answered at the same time. Between us. Emma nodded seriously. Okay. We walked into the clock tower. Daniel and Victor followed. The inside was colder than outside. The air smelled of dust, iron, and rain. A spiral staircase twisted upward into darkness. Every step had names carved into it. I looked closer. My blood froze. Ethan Hayes. Lily Morgan. Daniel Cross. Victor Cross. Claire Whitmore. Emma Hayes. Some names repeated again and again. Daniel bent down. Why is my name here so many times? A voice answered from above. Because you kept interfering. Daniel jumped back. Professor Ellison stood halfway up the stairs, looking down at us. He wore the same dark gray coat. His face was calm, like he had been waiting for guests. Victor lifted his gun. Ellison smiled. Mr. Cross, weapons are very comforting to people who still believe the world is physical. Victor fired. The shot echoed through the tower. The bullet stopped in midair inches from Ellison's face. Then it fell to the stairs. Daniel whispered, "Dad, I think he made his point." Ellison looked at me. "Mr. Hayes, Miss Morgan, Emma." When he said Emma's name, Lily pulled her closer. Ellison smiled. "No need to look so hostile. I protected the child for years." I said coldly, "You trapped her." Protection and imprisonment often look similar to those who do not understand danger. Lily's voice was icy. "If you say one more sentence about understanding danger while threatening my daughter, I will push you down these stairs myself." Daniel whispered, "That is my favorite Lily line so far." Ellison chuckled. "Miss Morgan, your spirit is always impressive." I stepped forward. "What do you want?" Ellison's smile faded slightly. "To correct what Claire damaged." I frowned. "Claire?" Yes, Claire was obsessive, unstable, and emotional. Useful at first, but ultimately destructive. She forced too many resets, broke too many branches, and contaminated too many timelines. His eyes moved to Emma. "Then you brought back a child who should not exist in this corrected reality." Emma hid behind Lily. "I said she exists." Ellison looked at me. "For now." My fists clenched. Daniel stepped beside me. "Okay, creepy professor, skip the lecture. What happens at midnight?" Ellison looked at the spinning clock hands. "At midnight, the final correction begins." Victor asked, "Correction of what?" Ellison said calmly, "The timeline." Lily's face changed. "You are going to erase Emma." Ellison shook his head. "Not only Emma." The tower bell rang again. The carved names on the stairs began glowing faintly. Ellison continued, "I will create one stable timeline. No resets, no fragments, no dead versions, no borrowed lives." His eyes settled on me. "A timeline where Ethan Hayes lives a normal life." I said coldly, "Without Lily." Ellison smiled. "Without the exchange." Lily held Emma tighter. "And that means?" Ellison's voice was gentle. "It means you and Lily never meet as children. She never saves you. You never make the wish. Claire never resets time. Emma is never born." The words struck like thunder. Daniel said, "So your solution is to erase everyone's suffering by erasing everyone's happiness too." Ellison replied, "Happiness built on broken causality is not stable." I laughed coldly. "You sound just like Claire." Ellison's eyes narrowed. "Claire wanted possession. I want order." I said, "You both want control." For the first time, anger flashed across his face. The tower shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Emma cried out, and Lily held her. Ellison took a breath and smiled again. "At midnight you will thank me." I looked at the clock. 11:31. We had 29 minutes. I said, "Why bring us here?" Ellison looked at Emma. "Because correction requires consent from the anomaly." Lily's face went white. "No." Ellison smiled at Emma. "The child must choose to return to where she belongs." Emma shook her head quickly. "I want to stay with Mommy and Daddy." Ellison's smile remained. "Children can be persuaded." I stepped in front of Emma. "You will not speak to her." Ellison sighed. "Mr. Hayes, you still think this is a battle of strength." The staircase beneath us suddenly shifted. The tower walls opened like pages of a book. White light flashed. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing in a hospital corridor. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. A nurse rushed past me. I knew this place. Before I could move, I heard Lily scream. I ran toward the sound. Inside a hospital room, Lily was lying on a bed, pale and sweating. Doctors surrounded her. Daniel stood near the door, face white. And in my arms, I held a newborn baby. Emma. This was the day she was born. My knees almost weakened. Lily looked at me from the bed. Ethan, is she okay? I walked toward her. She is perfect. Lily cried and laughed. Let me see her. I placed the baby in her arms. Lily touched Emma's tiny face. Hi, sweetheart. My heart ached. For one moment, I forgot Ellison. Forgot the clock tower. Forgot the final correction. Then the room froze. Ellison appeared beside the hospital bed. Beautiful, isn't it? I turned coldly. Get out of this memory. He looked at baby Emma. This is what you are fighting for. Yes. He nodded. Then you should understand what you risk. The hospital room changed. The lights flickered. The doctors disappeared. The bed became empty. Lily was gone. Baby Emma was gone. Only I stood in the room, holding nothing. Ellison's voice echoed. If Emma stays, the timeline will keep trying to correct her existence. Accidents, illness, vanishing memories, people around her will suffer. The door opened. Lily walked in. But she did not look at me. She looked through me, as if I was a stranger. My heart stopped. Lily. She did not answer. Ellison said softly, this is one possible correction. Lily forgets the child, then she forgets you. No. The scene changed again. Daniel stood at a funeral. Victor beside him. Daniel's eyes were hollow. Ellison continued, another correction. Daniel dies protecting a secret he should not know. The scene changed. Emma stood alone in a gray room. Older now. Maybe 10. She was crying. Mommy, Daddy. My whole body trembled. Ellison said, another correction. Emma survives, but no one remembers her. I lunged at him. The memory shattered. I was back in the clock tower. I fell to one knee. Lily was also kneeling beside me, breathing hard. She had seen something too. Emma was crying in her arms. Daniel leaned against the wall, face pale. Victor looked shaken. Ellison stood above us. You all saw possible outcomes. Daniel said hoarsely, I saw myself bald. That was cruel and unnecessary. Victor looked at him. Daniel. Daniel swallowed. Fine, I also saw myself dead. Lily glared at Ellison. You are trying to scare us into giving her up. Ellison said, I am showing you consequences. I stood slowly. No, you are showing possibilities. Ellison's smile faded. Possibilities become reality when ignored. I looked at Emma. She was shaking. I crouched in front of her. Emma, listen to me. She looked at me through tears. Daddy, if I stay, will everyone get hurt? Lily's face twisted in pain. I held Emma's small hands. Ellison wanted me to lie. He wanted me to promise nothing bad would ever happen. But I knew better. So I said, maybe bad things will happen. Emma's tears fell. But not because of you. She blinked. I continued, people may get hurt because someone is trying to control our lives, but that does not mean you should disappear. Lily knelt beside me. Emma, you are not a mistake. Daniel crouched too. For what it is worth, kid, I have seen many mistakes. You are not one of them. Victor stood behind Daniel and said, agreed. Emma looked at all of us. Then she whispered, but the professor said I belong in the dead place. I shook my head. No, you belong where you are loved. Lily hugged her. And that is here. Emma cried quietly into Lily's shoulder. The clock hands above us spun faster. 11:45. Ellison's voice became colder. Sentiment will not stop correction. Victor looked at the tower walls. Then what will? Daniel suddenly looked at the glowing names on the stairs. Wait. Everyone turned to him. Daniel pointed at the carvings. He needs consent from the anomaly, right? Ellison's eyes narrowed. Daniel continued. He said Emma has to choose to return. But why are all our names here? Victor looked at the stairs. Because we are witnesses. Daniel shook his head. No, this tower records repeated participants, everyone tied to the loop. He looked at me. Ethan, maybe Emma, is not the only one who gets a vote. Ellison's expression changed. That was enough. I knew Daniel was right. Claire had reset because of me. Lily and I created the exchange. Daniel remembered across resets. Victor entered the place between timelines. Emma returned from the dead timeline. We were all part of this now. I looked at Ellison. You do not need Emma's consent. You need ours too. Ellison said coldly, you are guessing. Daniel smiled. You look angry, so I'm guessing correctly. The tower shook violently. Ellison raised his hand. Daniel flew backward and hit the wall. Victor shouted and ran to him. Daniel coughed. I'm fine, very heroic, continue. Lily stood, holding Emma behind her. Ethan, what do we do? I looked at the glowing names. If the tower recorded us, maybe we could reject the correction the same way Lily and I rejected the exchange. But would that be enough? The clock showed 11:52. 8 minutes. Ellison descended the stairs slowly. You cannot stop this. I said you keep saying that. Everyone who wants control says that. He looked at me with hatred. You are not special because you survived. You are special because the world made a mistake around you. I walked up one step. Then we will live as mistakes. Lily took my hand. Together, Emma held Lily's other hand. Daniel, still coughing, reached out and grabbed my sleeve. I swear, if this sends us to another haunted library, I am resigning from friendship. Victor placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. Ellison's eyes widened. The glowing names on the stairs brightened. One by one, the carved names began changing. Ethan Hayes. Lily Hayes. Emma Hayes. Daniel Cross. Victor Cross. Claire Whitmore. When Claire's name lit up, the tower went silent. A white figure appeared on the staircase between us and Ellison. Claire. She looked tired, almost transparent. Ellison's face darkened. You. Claire smiled faintly. Did you think I would miss the ending? I stared at her. Claire. She looked at me. Do not misunderstand. I am not here for you. Her gaze moved to Emma. I am here because I paid the price to bring her out. I will not let him waste it. Emma looked at Claire with wide eyes. You are the lady from the glass. Claire smiled sadly. Yes. Ellison said coldly, you are dead. Claire laughed. After 237 timelines, death feels like a suggestion. Daniel whispered, I hate that line, but it was good. Claire turned toward Ellison. You used me. You fed my obsession. You told me I was saving him when I was only breaking him. Ellison replied, you made your own choices. Claire nodded. I did. Then she looked at me. And now I am making one more. The tower clock struck 11:59. Ellison raised both hands. The final correction begins now. White light poured down from the clock face. Emma screamed. Lily held her tightly. The stairs cracked. The glowing names burned brighter. Claire shouted, "Say it." I understood. I held Lily and Emma's hands. "I reject the correction." Lily said, "I reject the correction." Emma cried but said loudly, "I want to stay." Daniel shouted, "I reject the correction, and I reject all future supernatural paperwork." Victor said firmly, "I reject the correction." Claire looked at Ellison and smiled. "I reject you." The clock stopped. 11:59. 1 minute before midnight. Ellison's face twisted with rage. "You ignorant fools. Without correction, the broken timelines will bleed into this world." Claire stepped forward. "Then we seal them." Ellison froze. "No." Claire looked back at me. "Ethan, I can hold the door, but only from the other side." I knew what that meant. Lily's eyes softened, but she said nothing. Claire looked at Emma. "Live well." Then she turned and rushed toward the clock face. Ellison tried to stop her. Marcus suddenly appeared behind him and grabbed his arms. Ellison shouted, "Marcus." Marcus's face was pale, but his grip was firm. "I told you I would stop them from using the children." Claire reached the clock face. The white light wrapped around her. She screamed, but she did not step back. Marcus dragged Ellison toward the light. Ellison struggled violently. "You cannot do this. I am the only one who understands the system." Marcus said coldly, "Then understand this." He pushed Ellison into the light. Claire looked at me one last time. For the first time, there was no madness in her eyes. Only peace. "Ethan." I said nothing. She smiled faintly. "I know." Then the clock shattered. White light exploded. When I opened my eyes, I was outside the clock tower. Morning sunlight covered Harrington University. Birds flew from the tower roof. One flew low over my head. This time I ducked. Daniel, lying on the grass nearby, groaned. "Really, after everything, the bird gets you." I laughed. Lily sat up beside me, Emma in her arms. Emma was awake. She looked at the sun and smiled. "Mommy, Daddy, are we home?" I pulled them both into my arms. "Yes. This time we are home." Victor stood slowly, brushing grass from his suit. "I need coffee, lawyers, and possibly a new world view." Daniel raised his hand weakly. "Same." I looked up at the clock tower. The clock hands had stopped at midnight. But there was no more white light. No more spinning backward. No more carved names. Only one small mark remained on the stone near the entrance. A single word. Live. Lily saw it too. Her eyes filled with tears. "Do you think Claire wrote that?" I looked at the word for a long time. "Maybe." Daniel sighed. "I still do not forgive her." I said quietly, "Neither do I." Lily held Emma tighter. "But she helped save her." I nodded. "Yes. Some debts could never be erased. Some wounds could never become beautiful. But maybe even broken people could choose one right thing at the end." 6 months later, Emma started school. Her birth records were a nightmare. Victor solved it somehow. When I asked how, he only said, "Money is less impressive than time travel, but still useful." Daniel became Emma's self-appointed godfather. Emma adored him. Lily said it was because they had the same maturity level. Daniel said that was slander. For the first time, our life became ordinary. Painfully, beautifully ordinary. Lily burned breakfast twice a week. Emma put stickers on my laptop. Daniel came over uninvited and ate our food. Victor pretended he did not like family dinners, but always arrived early. Sometimes Lily and I still had nightmares. Sometimes I woke up reaching for her hand. She always reached back. We remembered enough to be grateful, not enough to be trapped. One evening, Emma fell asleep between us on the sofa. Lily leaned against my shoulder. "Do you think it is really over?" I looked out the window. For a long time, I did not answer. Then I said, "I think this is the first life no one is writing for us." Lily smiled softly. "Then we should make it a good one." I kissed her forehead. "We will." Outside, the wind moved through the trees. For a second, I thought I heard a clock bell. But when I listened again, there was only silence. No reset. No white light. No voice saying next time. Only Emma breathing softly between us. Only Lily's hand in mine. Only this life. The one we chose. And this time I would protect it. Not by dying. Not by sacrificing. But by living.